All right, y'all. Welcome to All Politics of Local America's number one political hip hop radio talk show. Y'all know if it's Friday, y'all know it's time for All Politics of Local. But more importantly, y'all know if it is the fourth Friday, it's time for the Disciples. So they're going to be up first at 6 o'clock. So we'll wait for them to join and we'll bring them on and then turn the show over to them. And then coming up after them, Zaid, we're going to have someone by the name of Dr. Susan.
Susan Esquillin from the Anti-Racist Mental Health Alliance of New Jersey, sponsoring a anti-racist mental health conference called Decolonizing Mental Health on October 4th. We're going to
Okay.
talk about it. We had some folks we know are involved in that, like Dr. Monique Swift is one of the keynote speakers. Raquel Roman Henry, one of my uh, former troops who is now with Salvation and Social Justice, is going to be one of the speakers. And it's an interesting conversation within the ranks of mental
Okay.
health providers, right? So
Mhm.
she's going to talk about that. Uh, who we have after that? After that, we got the great Cuqui Rivera coming back.
That's
The
right.
Latino Action Network and the Latino Action Network Foundation. There is a press conference coming up on October 1st around the question of solitary confinement and its abuse in the state of New Jersey. She is also co hosting a Get Out the Vote event with the returning citizens on the 5th. And in January, she wants everybody to get ready for the emergence of the Criminal Justice Working Group. A
Right.
lot of folks, it's a lot of folks who have been just as impacted are now in the front of real serious policy conversations when it comes to criminal justice reform. So we're going to talk to her about that. And
And then coming up at 8, we're going to have Hakeem Green, right?
right on. Good.
Gonna be and filling in for Rhino tonight. So he'll be on. Hopefully, we can get into this conversation, talk a little bit about what's happening, with the Puff case, what's going on in hip hop, and maybe even talk a little bit about what's going on in New York. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
everything just seems to
Florida
be,
too. We lucky to have him too because Florida just got hit with this hurricane. I
yeah,
need to check in on some of my folks down there. And I'm glad you mentioned Hakeem because he's down there now too.
yeah, and see what happened down there. Because they were talking about this was a storm that couldn't be survived. You know,
Yes, yeah.
which is
It looks messy. It's messy.
yeah, which is absolutely incredible. So I see one third of the disciples. I don't see his other co-host, but let's welcome brother Haqq of the
Abdul
disciples.
Haqq
Thank
Muhammad.
you. Thank you, Brother Ed. I'm
Salam
so
alaikum,
happy
my
to see
man.
you. Walaikum salam. I'm so happy to see you, Brother Ed, Brother Zaid. Always happy and honored to see you. You know, Brother Zaid and Brother Ed, there's a saying that many of our Christian brothers and say is better to be seen and not viewed, you know.
That's right.
So good to see each and every one of you and to hear you. You both look good. You're looking strong. Almighty God is permitting both of you to age gracefully.
I
Uh,
thank you, sir.
and no, seriously, this is no hyperbole, exaggeration. You know, He's blessing both of you to age gracefully. And you both have been two brothers that haven't just been sitting back, bystanders on the sideline. You both have been very significant figures, you know, in the fight for liberation, social justice, education, you know, breaking many barriers. So it's good to see you both and still fighting today, Brother Ed and you know, Brother Zaid. And we can't say enough about you too and what you have contributed, you know, to the intellectual growth, spiritual growth, emotional growth, and maturity of our people. And we know that the city of Newark has been in the headlines in the forefront in terms of violence reduction and the improvement of the quality of life.
Yes, sir.
And we know that our brother, Mayor Raj J. Baraka, is at the forefront of that and at the helm of that. but behind him, there's been many great brothers like you, Zaid, and you, Brother Ed, that's been helping him, supporting him, and supporting, you know, the citizens of North New Jersey for many, many years, man. Many rallies, many interviews, many policy meetings that you both, have been a part of. Some you have spearheaded, so as North gets her flowers, quote unquote, I guess. The work is not done until it's done, but I'm just saying, we can't dismiss the drastic improvements that the city of North have made. And I'm just saying that to say you two have been very instrumental figures in terms of the growth and the development in the city of North New Jersey in the right direction. So, it's good to see you both, brothers.
Yes, sir.
I pray all is well with you and your families, and that God is blessing you both with good health. And I know that I don't see Reverend Rountree, but who's a very busy woman, an extremely busy woman, but she
Yeah.
always makes time. She's DC, she's here, she's at a funeral, and I get on her a lot of times, Brother Ed.
Yes,
Not
sir.
that, God has called her to do what he's called her to do, but I know that there's balance that we all must try to achieve in his work.
Yes, sir.
So I'm always on her about getting the necessary rest, the necessary, uh, you know, care that she needs. So, but God is great, and I'm just so happy to see you both, brothers, and to
Yeah,
hear
bro.
your voice and what you've been talking about. And I know we're waiting for Reverend Rountree and Sister Ali to come on. Everybody, if you're on, you're familiar with. It's the fourth Friday. We have our show, The Disciples. So for everybody who's tuning in, who's you know, familiar with the show, we welcome you again. Again, we're waiting for the illustrious Reverend Rountree and Sister
Yeah.
Ali. And I think Brother Ed, she informed us that she does the women's domestic violence circle or something like that on the fourth Friday. So she was trying to,
Oh, okay.
she was trying to get the scheduling together.
Right.
It's something that she's been doing, very important to her and us.
Right.
A circle that she has with women who suffered and been victims of domestic violence. So I know she was talking about, trying to schedule it where it wouldn't interfere. And even
Mhm.
doing the circle, she still was at the circle doing the show. So we thank
Mhm.
her much for her dedication and her commitment,
Yeah.
to the work of helping our sisters. But so we waiting for them. We have a great show uh, for everybody in the listening audience. Man, God is great, and we know that the scripture says that He answered the prayers of the righteous. And a few weeks ago, we had a sister who's no stranger to the citizens of North New Jersey. Those of us in North, uh, Councilwoman MacGyver, we had her on the show, and at this time she was just talking about taking over the vacated seat of our brother
Yeah.
Payne passed away. May God be pleased with him and his work and his service. He's a brother that will be missed, but his legacy will live in the people and in all of the things that he did in improving the quality of life for those of us, particularly in Newark and, all over New Jersey and really the country. So we knew that a few weeks ago we talked to her. She was talking about she was going to throw her name in the ring, and we all, really believed in her that
Yep.
God would bless her. Many of us have watched her grow. I grew up with her personally, Brother Ed and Brother Aid. We went to high school together.
I didn't
So
know that, brother.
yeah, we went to North Central together.
I didn't
And
know.
man,
Yeah.
and she could tell you some things about me that, brother, in terms of she saw where I was. So
Wow.
yeah, we went to high school together and we used to bicker and then, and look at us now. So
Wow.
we know her character. We watched her grow. She loved the people of North New Jersey. She grew up here. Her family is from here. Her family lives here. We've watched her grow. We watched her mature. We watched her develop. We watched her gain strength and courage to be able to stand up, for that which the people of Newark need. So we are so happy to have her on the show, and we're going to have our brother Crump, who's taking over her seat. Is that right, Brother Ed?
Right. He's
So
Well,
down.
no, he's not. Rountree said she couldn't get him for tonight,
oh,
uh,
okay.
but she was going to invite her son to come on tonight and talk about what's going on with him and what's going on with the mansion and so forth. So he was going to reschedule
Come on,
for
left. Come on.
Okay.
Come on.
next
They
week.
go Reverend Rountree right there doing some
Come
work
on.
and still trying to get onto the show. We
I'm
see you.
on the shelf.
We see you, sister, and we see you.
Assalamu alaikum.
Walaikum salam,
Assalamu
sister.
alaikum.
We see you, and we covering you, and everybody who somebody knows Reverend Roundtree, and they know how committed you are, how dedicated you are. So we've already did a brief, a
I'm in
soft
the elevator
introduction. Yeah, we see that. Look, ain't
in
no need
City
to.
Hall, and they
Ain't no
can't hear
need
me
to
because it's in
explain, Reverend
close.
Roundtree. We already explained it for you. Everybody who's very
You have a place
familiar.
for home.
I'm ain't
Yeah.
no way. I got my minister. Minister Haqq Muhammad is on the line, and I'm still in City Hall.
It's all right, sister. We know. We already prepped the people, and they already
Look at
know.
you guys. You look so good, my beloved minister. All right.
Look,
I just
so
walked up into the middle of the show at 10 after 6, yelling
it's
and
all right,
screaming.
sister. Sister, we already prepped the people, and those that familiar with the show, that watch the show on a regular
Hold on.
basis, they already
At
know
some
you.
point, I'm going to have an issue until I get out of the building. If y'all just give me a minute to get out of the building, I
Yeah,
have to
yes,
come back
ma'am.
in.
Reverend
Okay.
Roundtree,
But
if you
there's
could just
enough to talk about while we are working. So if I lose you, know that I'm transferring to my car. Uh,
Reverend Roundtree, Reverend
me
Roundtree.
in the office. Ah, Jesus. Yes, I'm here.
If you could just maybe go ahead and transition.
I'm
If you can
here,
maybe just
my
go
brother.
on mute while you transition. We here,
Let
we see you. Okay. Did she hang up, brother Ed?
No. She's still there.
No, just go ahead and hold it down. I'll be right back on in a few minutes when I transition. I love you guys. Give me about 5 minutes and it'll all be happening for real. Thank you guys.
We love you too, sister.
Okay.
Yeah.
So
So Hawk, let me just back up for a minute. So
yes, sir.
when you was at Central, who was the principal?
Say it again.
Who was the principal at Central?
Uh Principal, man, it's so long ago, brother.
Brother,
Uh
come
what's
on,
his
man.
name, man?
If me and Zaire gotta go back, that's long, brother.
No, what was his name? Dang, man, I can't think of it for some reason. It's escaping me right now. I can't. It wasn't. It definitely wasn't the mayor because
Okay,
it was. We
okay,
was on 100 Summit Street, and for years we were constantly being told that we would be the class that would walk into the new Central, the
okay.
Central that once the mayor became the principal they had built that newly constructed central. So we was always being told that we was going to be the class that would be in
Right,
there, but it just never happened. But I
right,
just can't think of his name at the time. It escapes me. Good brother, strong brother, seemed to be very positive. I just can't think of his name right now. But we was on 100 Summer Street, not too, right down there by Baxter Terrace. I think NJIT has now taken over that building, acquired the building, and it's a part of
Yeah,
their school now.
that's the old. It was right around the corner from Rutgers, right?
Yep. You right across the street, brother Ed. I used to, man, playing football. We used to line up right on that street, right across from Paul Robeson, right
Yeah,
there.
yeah.
So
That's
I
that's
started fighting with no police over the Central High School students back in the 70s at Rutgers.
look
Over the
how
kids
long. You
just
see what I'm
just
saying,
going to
brother
school
Zaid?
on the
So
campus.
me and Councilwoman MacGyver was there. We went to North Central together. Uh,
yeah.
and North is a small city, 6 degrees of separation. Everybody knows somebody. They went to school. They relatives, they cousins. So North is a very small city.
Right.
But again, I've seen her. I watched her grow and mature. she seen me, watched me grow and mature. Now, by the grace of God, we both public servants, striving our best to inspire, to motivate, and to help be agents of change. So, where God has taken us from and where He has us, and God willing will be, and it's only by His grace. So, but again, Brother Ed and Brother Zaid, we so happy for our sister. And, I didn't have any doubts that what we seen transpire will ultimately happen. I thought and believed that she was the best candidate in person, for that seat,
Right.
for that job. She's young, she's very innovative, she has a lot of ideas. And Brother Ed and Brother Zaid, there's a lot of voter apathy among black folks. And I don't say it's not justifiable. I don't say that. I think sometimes where the voter apathy is concerned, it troubles a lot of our people. But
Mm-hmm.
we know that there were so many great revolutionaries and illuminaries that had a degree of voter apathy. Dr. King, W.B. Du Bois. There's many that at some point in the struggle, they begin to look at the political system of America and question it. Those that were vested in it, you
Right.
know, after so many disappointments and letdowns, seeing behind the curtains, they begin to see, oh no, this is it is something that needs to be fixed. There is something that's inherently wrong with this. You understand? So, but I say that to say our sister is young. She's very innovative. I think that she has her pulse beat on the younger generation. She can articulate policy and politics in a way that our young people can explain, is palatable. And again, she's a grassroots person. She's
Yeah.
from New Hope Village. She walks among the people. So that those things are always good. She's very relatable. So I think that she's going to bring a level of, authenticity to the halls that we need, just as our brother Mayor Ras J. Baraka has brought a great degree of authenticity, a degree of pedagogy that many of those who are in that realm don't have. And I don't blame them for not having it. I'm just talking about our brother. You
Right.
understand? We see what he's been able to do because of his rearing, because of his upbringing, because of his frame of reference. What he's really been able to do in terms of getting real substantial change for the people of North New Jersey. you know, we can debate circular reason. Everyone is not going to be happy with everything, but we can see drastic improvement. So I believe our sister, who has been mentored by him as well as many others, is going to bring a great degree of authenticity, a great view, a different view that maybe not in Congress now. So, we thank God much for her. But until she comes on, and Reverend Rountree come back, man, as you was talking, Brother Ed and Brother Diana, so much happening in New York City. We see Mayor Eric Adams. We talked about P. Diddy. This is all politics local. This is the disciples, the spiritual aspect of it. But I know, Brother Ed, you are a man who, you
But
know,
let's talk about that for a minute, brother Haqq, because and I know you're a scripture man, right? So there's a scripture in Ephesians chapter 6, verse 12, where it says, "We wrestle not against flesh and blood, right,
Mhm.
but against prince and principalities, against powers, the darkness and the rulers of this world," right? So I mean, if we look at those things and look at what's happening and look at it from a spiritual perspective, I mean, how do we size that up? How do we size it up?
Yeah, I think, you know,
Oh, I'm here. I just
oh,
got
there
back
you go.
on.
We so happy to see you, Reverend Roundtree. Brother Ed we was talking, we just was kind of getting into, we talked about Councilwoman MacGyver, but we just was talking about all that's happening in the
Come on,
news.
phone. Don't do this to me now. Coming through downtown, you would think that we would never lose connection. That's why I like to stay on my computer in my office because I know that we're going to get a clear cut, clean cut hour of good solid conversation. I'm in dialogue. Thank you, Brother Ed.
Well, so you can hear me, brother Ed?
I can hear you. Yes, sir.
Can you hear me, Reverend Rountree?
I did hear Minister Haqq talking about, if you can hear me, Minister Haqq talking about the mayor. And you guys, can you hear me?
Yeah, we can
Yep.
hear you.
Okay, good, because I see Minister Haqq looking like. However, I heard him talking about the mayor and how the city has moved forward, and I missed a couple of the conversations and a little bit of what was being said. But I'm going to just come in on the fact that my little sister, who just went to Congress, who we were mentioned by some of the greatest women I know, that Council President, the new sitting President Trump, whose mother mentored both of us, but then I've had about 10 other strong women in the community and in the city who mentored, and in this state, whose shoulders I stand on, one being my mother. But if we move forward and just talk about where Congresswoman Monica McIver is going right now, she's going to do some great things in Washington. I do believe that Washington is going to be the better for her. When we talk about young people and what they're learning as they watch us, what are they learning from government? There's some good, there's some bad, and there's a whole lot. But I can tell you this one thing, that I just see that Mr. LeVar Scott has joined us. He's a young man that had no interest, Mr. Riley, in politics whatsoever, just as I didn't have any interest in politics or ministry. And sometimes we end up in an arena for whatever reason to work in the midst of these things. So I know you were talking about, if I'm not mistaken, Congresswoman McIver, were you not? Didn't you have some words regarding her?
I'm trying to.
Brother Ed?
Yeah.
Brother Ed?
Did you hear her? What Roundtree said?
No, I didn't
You
hear
all
that
hear
last
me?
part you said. That last part
So
you
she
just
was
said,
she
Reverend
was
Rountree,
I
went
just
out.
said,
she was just
were you
talking
not
about.
talking about Congresswoman McIver and the mayor?
Yeah, we was. We just was talking about, all, as you just said, all that has been put into them and what they have brought to that arena. You know,
Right.
uh, a level of authenticity typically that we don't see, a level of care, concern that you typically don't see, customarily don't see
That's right.
in the political realm.
That's right.
We were talking about that, but Reverend Roundtree, we were just talking about, we had kind of came from that, and then we were talking about New York City, Eric, Mayor
Oh
Eric
God, this
Adams,
guy.
and we were talking about P Diddy. Ed brought him up, and he quoted Ephesians 6:12, where it talks about we war not against flesh and blood, but principalities, wickedness in high places. And, he was just asking and giving us our perspective on that in terms of all that we see happening in the news, with all of these indictments, particularly among, black men, black men of influence, black men of quote unquote power, black men of political sway. He just asked what we thought about that, in terms of what we seeing, all of these indictments that's happening, um, in the news, scripturally, from a spiritual perspective. Ed was asking, what did we think about that?
So that scripture that you just quoted, Ephesians, my brother, that we war against, not against flesh and blood. Let me be very clear. There are things that I believe that the prince of the air, which we are very familiar with on a daily basis, creates distractions. And when we allow those distractions to get in the way of the real issues or the real focus of what we should be doing. You listen, let me say this, and I saw somebody post this, um, indictments, Sean Combs, all of these things that are coming out all of a sudden in the midst of an election year, just before a presidential election. Before the vice president primary, you could hear crickets. It didn't even seem like it was
Mm-hmm.
there was getting ready to be an election. There was some other issues going on during that time, and we weren't even focused on, oh my God, what's going on with our legislators, what's going on with government, what's going on down in Washington. We were so focused on other issues, and it's happening again. That we have to keep our eyes on the prize. We got to press toward the mark of the higher calling, Minister Abdul Haqq Muhammad. And you know that there are things that are positioned that man has created for us to focus on. Yes, we know that some things are designed to tear us down. We already know that. And some of this we can do nothing about because some of us put ourselves in position for these things to happen. You got to be careful who you make an enemy. I know a pastor said last week, I want my enemies to be strong, so I feed them because the Bible declares, I make your enemy your footstool. So if the enemy's going to be your footstool, you got to be strong enough to carry you. So this young preacher said, I take care. It's okay. It's okay. And when I say that is sometimes we get so twisted and so discombobulated that our focus becomes so much on what they're saying to tear us down that we're not continuing to build anyway. And that's what Mayor Baraka has done. He's building anyway. He's fixing anyway. In spite of folks trying to tear us down, he's continuing to go forward. I'm not saying that we're not human beings. People are human. And not just in government, in the corporate world, in the world of education, in the public safety world. These things are not just happening in government, they're happening in the church, they're happening in schools. And there are people in high places that don't realize, and I said it today at the council meeting, while we're so busy tearing each other down, we don't realize that we're not helping to make this world a better place to create greater leaders. If some of the folks that do the things that they do in regards to thinking that we could do things better would focus on how they could collaborate to make things better. When I look at LaMonica McIver, this young woman from where New Hope, I'm from, Lord have mercy, I can't even get it out my mouth. But she tells her own story. A little young black girl from North that never in her wildest imagination, when she met the mayor as a teacher, saw herself being the congresswoman. Do you know what kind of hope that is for a young black girl to see herself as a congresswoman?
I think we lost her.
Yeah, she's not getting the best service. I see her and Brother LeVar's traveling. Brother LeVar, you still there, brother?
I was trying to install. Well, good evening, everyone. How y'all doing? I apologize
Man,
for being tardy.
no, it's good to see you, brother. It's good to see your smiling face, brother. And we
Yes, sir. It's good to
so
see you
happy
guys
to
too.
see, man. You don't know how happy we are. I know I am to see you, my brother, and all
Yes,
that
sir.
you've been
Yes,
doing
sir.
and helping your mother and growing and maturing as a young man. We watched you grow and we watched you
Yes, sir.
mature. And we know that you like us, is a young man in transition. And
Yes, sir.
sometimes the transitional curves, brother, they sharp.
Yes,
You
sir.
know, and transition can
It's
be
sharp. It's sharp.
it can be a very dangerous thing because you're not where you were and you're not ultimately where you're going to be, but you moving,
Yes, sir.
you in transit. So it's so happy,
Yes, sir.
so good to see you. But back to your question, brother Ed, and we heard Reverend Rountree in the scripture that you asked about, we war not against flesh and blood. And my teacher, the Honorable Minister of Fire, kind of said to us that the root of our problem most times is spiritual and therefore necessitates a spiritual solution. And this is a world that pulls and draws on the worst
Yes,
of the human being.
yes,
So we talking scripturally, brother Ed, brother Zaid. The book of Revelations, it gives Satan several adjectives it used to describe him. different names and titles that are used to describe him. There's
Yes.
different creatures, and one of the creatures that it calls him is a dragon, Brother Ed. It says that the dragon was wroth with the woman and went to make war with her seed. So, and my teachers taught us that, you know, as the dragon is a mythological creature that breathes fire, it stirs up. It's a human being that says things that stirs up the passion, the fire of self. And a dragon, he says, is a human being that seeks to drag you down, drag you out of light into darkness, drag you out of knowledge into ignorance, drag you out of righteousness into evil, drag you out of discipline into filth. And this world was designed and crafted to drag the human being down, to drag us into behaviors and conduct that's unbecoming of
Absolutely.
what God created us to be.
That's right.
So my teachers have taught us that every moon has a dark side. Every moon has a dark side. He says, but the side that God keeps out is the side that helps the vegetation of the earth grow at night in the absence of the sun. But it seems like this is a world that's fixated on accusation, slander, gossip, debauchery, you know, uh, just all of those things that pulls the human being down and brings the worst out of us, brother. And unfortunately, Brother Ed, because many of our core values are not in line with, that which is from the creator, we fall victim to the satanic traps that this world has set. I don't make any excuses for anyone or even myself, but I have to look at things in a particular context, because nothing happens in a vacuum. So again, I think what we're seeing in terms of with these brothers and sisters of influence and how they unfortunately fall into a lifestyle that might be unbecoming. Again, I think that most of us, if given the opportunity, we might fall into them things ourselves, especially if you're not rooted, in faith and doing the will of God. And even sometimes when you are rooted, you still can fall. You still can fall victim to the snares and the
That's
traps
right.
of this
Of the
world,
enemy. That's
because
right.
the scripture says in First Peter, the 5th chapter, the 8th verse, Brother Ed, it says, "Be sober, be vigilant,
Vigilant.
because your
Vigilant.
adversary, the
Right.
devil, walketh about to and fro as a roaring lion, seeking whom he may devour."
To
But
devour and destroy.
it says, "Be sober, Brother Ed, be vigilant." So you can't be vigilant if you're drunk. And a
Mm-hmm.
lot of times, power and fame and money and prestige, it makes you drunk. You become
Right.
inebriated. You
Right.
That's right.
understand? So you can't be vigilant because you
That's
drunk
right.
off the power that comes with fame
That's
and
right.
prestige. And so you can't be vigilant to the weakness of yourself, the traps maybe that's being set. So sometimes when you are not uh, exercising humility, then God permits humiliation to
Mm.
show
Oof.
you,
Mm.
nah,
My Lord.
there's no God but me. Yes, you have prestige and influence,
That's
but
right.
you know, Reverend Rountree, the book of Psalms says, glorify him in the
That's
songs and
right.
like,
That's right. That's
so
right.
I think that what we seeing, Brother Ed, is just, it's indicative of the human condition, you know, and it's on so many levels, so many levels. As Reverend Roundtree said, it's happening in the church. We've seen
Yep.
prestigious pastors who have been
Yes.
indicted and who have been
Yes.
called out for unscrupulous behavior. We see it in the calls of Congress. We see it
Yes.
everywhere.
At
But
schools.
again,
Schools
the
everywhere.
Bible says to us, Brother Ed and Reverend Roundtree, Brother Zai, that Satan, Revelation 12:9, Satan deceives the whole world.
The whole world.
So Satan is a formidable opponent. because again, he fashions a world and a system that pulls and draws on the worst of us. And this is why my leader has taught us that Jesus is so important, because when he went up on that mountain, it says Satan
That's
was
right.
also there with him.
That's right.
And
Trying to
Satan
tempt
asked
him.
him, look, if you have all of this, you can have this and that. But
But
Jesus had enough strength to say, get thee behind me, Satan.
wait a
And
minute, but he oh wait a
unfortunately,
minute.
I'm
But
sorry,
minister, he said, "Get thee behind me, Satan." But the truth of the matter is, you can't give me what already belongs to me. You
right,
can't,
right.
you can't tip me. How you gonna offer me what's already mine? You know. And
Right,
Jesus was with
right.
the wisdom to look at him and just say, "Look, brother, look, you can't do this. You can." And see, that is, um, whatever God has for you, if it's for you, you gonna get it in time. You just have to wait for your time to get it. The mayor talks about having ran for office, and we know this for a fact. How many times he did not gain a seat? But when it was his time to gain the seat in 2010, he was positioned. So things don't always happen when we want it to, and when we act expeditiously and try to create time for ourselves to do a thing, instead, and I tell folks, you've got to connect yourself in a spirit, a realm of the spirit, where you're not acting on your own, that you're moving in a sense that, oh, this is not the time. I mean, this is not the time. And sometimes you got to do all of that to learn. So when you get there, you know what to do. It depends on what God's plan is. And as you said, Minister, we know that the enemy is real, just as real as God is. You know, and some people downplay the enemy until it's too late. There is no way. Listen, your show can't outsmart God. That is just not going to happen. So whatever you do, what they say, whatever don't come out in the
Yeah,
wash,
boxing either. I ain't gonna try.
they say, wait a minute. They say, whatever don't come out in the wash, come out in the rinse. Okay, so,
Right,
so
right.
that's
I,
that's
I
the
think
real.
a lot of us just haven't had the strength to be able to say that, get thee behind me, Satan.
Absolutely
When we are offered certain things. And, brothers I eat, I'm sure there's so many layers. It's so multifaceted. It's not just a black and white thing, or to try to
right,
oversimplify something as
right.
complex as what we see, what to do it an injustice and a disservice, brother Ed,
Absolutely
in terms of what all of this means, and particularly for us as black folks, in America, um, what we see playing out is not something that we haven't seen. But I'll say this though, it was something about the crucifixion, the minister teaches us, in terms of what we saw taking place, how they stripped the man of all his clothes and he was naked. And he was talking to us about black leadership, how all black leadership, from Kwame Ture to Marcus Garvey, have they all had went through this crucifixion process. And he talked about how it resembled the crucifixion of Jesus, because every physical law got a spiritual counterpart. But he said physically, where Jesus was stripped, he said that represented that you expose the man's frailties and his weaknesses. So he is naked before the people. And we know that none is perfect but God. So we all have some frailty or some weakness or something somewhere. You understand? Something that's hidden. But in order to discredit black men of consequence, they have always tried to make us seem like we were living a life that were contrary to what we had espoused, or the principles that we gave. So they always sought to look in our dirty laundry and our baggage and put it out there before the public and say, see this man that you believed in, he's really not who you think he is. He's a contradiction. He's no good. So they always seem to have us naked before the public. And the minister was talking about where you break the man's legs, meaning Jesus. They broke his legs, meaning that you take the man's support away. You take that away which he used to stand on. You understand? And when you begin to expose people's frailties and their weaknesses, you see a lot of times they support fall. We've seen it done to our mayor here in terms of that crucifixion, trying to bring him up on charges. And I'm not saying that this is what's happening. I'm just saying in a broader sense of things. That's why these situations with us in terms of Black America, we see so many prominent people on trial being indicted. You know, it always creates this ambivalence or these mixed feelings and controversy among Black America because we've just seen it so many times. We were told that this one was this, and we turned our back on him, and then laid out it came that he really wasn't that. And I mean, we just see it so many times, and you know, it just again creates and stirs up a lot of times more mixed feelings and controversy that you see in our community. And it's just unfortunate, but God has permitted it to happen in whichever way it go. You know, I believe that he has us, but I would just ask us to be patient and not to feed the disinformation or the lies, because a lot of times we like to speak before we even know or have adequate information, before anything is authenticated. We just hear something and we run with it, you know. So I would just ask us to be patient, be disciplined. Don't feed the disinformation or the rumors or the gossip. You know, let's discipline ourselves, our tongues. And I know it could be difficult to do in an age where everybody has the ability to just go online and say what they feel. But, you know, we don't want to be uh, perpetuators of a lie, perpetuators of slander. We don't want to be perpetuators of that, you know. So I would just ask us to be diligent, do our due diligence as we see these things play out, and keep our mind on Almighty God and ask Him to protect us and preserve us in this hour where so many things are happening so fast, you know.
So important to seek refuge with Allah, as the Quran teaches us,
Yeah,
in all
so
things, at all times.
yeah, it's because it's you know we seen the execution of our brother in Missouri, and we
That was
see
horrible.
yeah what that is doing to us as a people and to humanity and society, you know. So much is happening so fast. Um, you know, it's hard to keep up a lot of times with the news and just these things that's unfolding in America, in the world. We see what's happening with Israel, Palestine, and now Lebanon, and so many things are happening, and we can be pulled emotionally in so many different directions that we can begin to lose ourselves, lose our perspective, and the level of mental strength that one needs to be able to survive in this time is greater than any time ever in history. The mental strength and fortitude that it takes in order to survive, because we are flooded with so much information, so much negativity, so much bad news we're being flooded with. And if the nature of us is good, then how do we process all of this constant bombardment of negative news and this story and that story? This happens and then this happens. It does something to us spiritually, it does something to us emotionally, it does something to us psychologically. But we've just been made to run so much that we are not sensitive, I think, a lot of times to our own needs, our own self, exactly what's happening. So we don't even know what all that we are inhaling is doing to us. So you talked about Ephesians, Brother Ed, but that's why in Ephesians 6, it also talks about put on the whole armor of God, the
Yep.
breastplate of faith, the breastplate of righteousness. You got to put on the whole armor. We need it today. Put on the helmet of salvation. Why? Because the level of debauchery, the level of wickedness that we see happening, the news. I mean, it's just so much, and it happens so fast that if you are not anchored and rooted in a source that's greater than what's happening, you'll get lost. No matter how anchored you think you are, you have to be anchored enough, I believe, to be able to discern and see and know that, man, something something is happening in America and throughout the world. Unprecedented something is happening. Uh, things, storms of biblical proportion. Again, we see what's happening unfolding in the Middle East. I believe this is all by divine design and plan. And I don't think we can take it for granted, Brother Ed, or take it lightly, brother, in terms of what we see happening, what we see unfolding, and what will continue to unfold as time goes on. Now, this is not a doomsday. I'm not no doom peddler, but I'm just saying that, we should be mindful, of what we inhale and what we ingest, in terms of social media. And all of it.
I definitely think that's right on target. But you know what? I want to transition and see if we can talk to LeVar a little bit about what's happening at the mansion, what's going on, and some of the things that are upcoming. I think
Yes, sir.
and
Thank
some
you
of
for your patience too, Brother LeVar. We really appreciate you. Thank you, brother.
No, absolutely. I appreciate all you gentlemen and all you leaders, that have been, on my side and have been supporting my mother. Always gave me, I would say, some encouragement, and not just any encouragement, because people could just say, "Oh, hope you're doing well," but it comes a little bit different, from you guys and you gentlemen, because you guys actually have a spiritual and a real genuine meaning behind when you say "be well," and that you're praying for me, and that you're praying for my mother, and that you want everything to be okay. So it's a little, it hits a little bit different, coming from you gentlemen. But everything at the mansion is well, is working. In God's time. We're supposed to be hopefully meeting with. Well, Monday we're meeting with a contractor, so we could build out the beauty shop. That's a long time coming. So I'll be reopening up my grandmother's beauty shop. It's gonna be called
Wow.
Scott's Beauty Studios. In honor of my late grandmother. And it's been a long time coming. My mom, she's busy running the city, so I've been, trying to keep up. It's a big task, but to whom is
Gotta
given,
keep up
much
with
is
your mother
required.
is
So
a
I know
very
that I
big
have to.
task.
Absolutely, absolutely. But if she can do it, as I ain't trying to throw under the bus or anything, and I'm glad she got off, but she still might catch this later on. But to be a middle-aged woman and to have the weight of the city, not only the city but the state on her back, and for her to get up at 6 in the morning, 5 in the morning, 7 in the morning, and don't get home until about sometimes 9, 10 o'clock, sometimes even midnight. That's nothing but encouragement for me and motivation for me to say, if she can do it, then of course I can, because I come from that stock.
Right.
So it's been rough. Not gonna sugarcoat anything. It's been rough. My daughter just turned 10 years old. So the like my mother was saying, the prince of the air, always tries to whisper, and not only just to myself, but through other people, to discourage me, and not even on purpose, but sometimes people are used as instruments to deter you from your destiny. And I had to realize that even though someone may feel like they have my best interest, the enemy will still use them, because some people are on autopilot, and I had to realize that as well. Some people are on autopilot, they'll mean something genuine, but it still deter me from my destiny. So I had to really take that into consideration and really understand what I have to do as a person, what I have to do as a man, and not only a man but a father, especially a man of color. So prayerfully, the shop will be open before the end of this year. We had and Mr. Riley was there. We need to get there. We need to get you there, brother Zaid, next time, and you too, brother Haqq.
Yes, sir.
We had our second annual legacy brunch from my grandmother, and it was a beautiful turnout. We gave out scholarships. This is our second time giving out scholarships. We gave out about 4 or 5 this year. We gave out about 4 or 5 last year. So we've been doing the work. And serving as the president once again is nothing but pressure. But like I said, to whom, but I had to realize that I could have been birthed by any other woman, and I was given this lady right here, this woman, this queen, this goddess right here.
What a
So if
hell of a
all of this
choice,
weight
man.
is thrown on her, and I mean, he couldn't have designed it any better, at all. So for me to
Right.
understand that, when I hear you guys speak and you gentlemen speak, it's nothing but motivation. And I watched not to get off subject, but I watched the Bob Marley, the One Love. I watched that movie for the first time, and then I watched the documentary. And my mother, she stayed over at my house for the first time too. So she slept and she woke up and she's like, "Oh, that's the movie." I was watching the documentary, and she saw me shaking my head. I was almost in tears because to see that man with all the life that he had, and it got into his last days, I said, "This man almost lost his life, was on the brinks of losing his life, and still had faith, and
Right.
still had hope, and still pushed that hope to the people that was around him and around the world." So that
Mm-hmm.
gave me a fire to say, if this man could be staring at death in the face and still give God the glory and still push forward and still make people push forward, then then I have no excuse. I have no excuse at all. So
Well, we
yeah,
I
not
and
to
I,
get off subject.
that's a we should because it's a faith body that we haven't really lifted up in this space much, but the
Yes,
Rastafarian experience is one of
yes,
the
sir.
most genuine, unapologetic Black faith experiences in the Americas, right? And
Yes,
Mr.
sir.
Marley was definitely one for the I and I in an uncompromising and unapologetic way. But go ahead, finish your point, LeBron. I just wanted
And
to put a pin in that.
yes, sir. That's it right there. And to understand all of the just everything that was at stake, and for him to still push forward, for him to still say, we're gonna unite. But before he had found out that he got cancer, after he got shot, still had to put, still went on with the show. Um, but to see that man go through what he went through, to stare death in the face, not only once but twice, and to still have that faith and to still put the faith in the others, that was all the confirmation that I needed. That in that moment when I was on the brink of once again giving up, well, not giving up, and say, because I ain't that type of guy, but for me to walk away, I would say, for me to think about walking away because it's too much, for me to have that, like, it was on Prime Video, for that just to drop right there, it was nothing but the Lord saying,
Mm.
just just in case you forgot. Just in case you forgot. So that was nothing but the confirmation that was nothing but confirmation I needed. And my mother looking at me like, boy, I've been saying this all your life, but sometimes you need to hear it from a different source.
That's right.
And sometimes it needs to be a different voice that's saying it. So once again, we have a lot that's coming forward from the mansion. um, and yeah, I'm truly grateful and honored and blessed to be a part of, all politics are local. And for you guys to continue to speak life into me and support my mother, because if it wasn't for her, I wouldn't be here. And if it wasn't for you guys, my mother would be on my BUTT a whole lot more.
And you know what? We never know, brothers, how the message is going to come. I mean, I've had him. He was hanging out. Wait a minute, brother Baba. We went to an event, and Minister Abdul Haq was like in the process of transitioning, doing some things. And LeVar went with me, and he was standing up against the wall, and people was like, "Oh, you with the nation,"
With the
because he
nation.
felt right. He felt
I had the
so in
posture and
line with
everything.
them. He felt so in line with them, hanging with them. He wasn't even going to the mouth. They was like, "Oh, you with the brothers now, huh?" And because he automatically fell in line
Yeah.
um, with the movement of this brother. And I've always wanted, because I have to be true, I don't say I was a single mother, because I was a mother with a lot of brothers around that saw such good in him and saw things in him that he refused to see in himself. He knew it was there. I tell him he was great every day,
The
but
thing
I
is,
never knew it.
before I don't mean
Go
to
ahead.
cut you off. So the rest in peace to Street Doctor. He used to always say that boy good, he good, and he was absolutely right. He was
I'd be
and
like,
rest
go
his
talk to
soul
my son.
and
And this brother
rest
was
his
so
soul.
good.
But rest his
Yeah.
soul. He was absolutely right because I never been convicted of a crime. I've been arrested, yeah, because it's a little bit of the devil's lettuce, but I never hurt nobody. I never. So, and I'm still here by the grace of God. So
That's right.
he saw something in me that, you know, like once again, I knew and I was sure, but I wasn't too sure on how I was gonna, get to
Play
where
out.
I was gonna get.
Mhm.
But I always knew that number one, I wasn't the person that hurt nobody, robbed nobody, especially killed nobody. So that was one of the things that I knew off rip that I wasn't no gangbanger, I wasn't no pimp. I wasn't,
I didn't even
I
know they
wasn't a
still
drug
use that
dealer.
word.
I wasn't a drug dealer. I wasn't a womanizer. So for all of those things that I seen my friends fall victim to, and now associates, because friends I can't throw that word out there lightly, loosely, but he was absolutely right. Because I'm not a womanizer. I'm not a woman beater. I ain't a drug dealer. I ain't a drug user. I'm not a slinger. You have my little lettuce, here and there once in a while. But God's gonna take care of that when He need to take care of it. But and I'm being honest. But other than that, I ain't an alcoholic. And and I
But
still
what
have my
Street Doctor
freedom.
was
And
saying,
and by the grace of God, go ahead.
what Street Doctor was saying, not to cut you off, son, was something because being a mother, knowing what society has labeled our brothers, I would always tell them when you're driving, if you get pulled over, just put your hands up. I mean, just like so many things I needed to warn him
Yeah.
because of his pigment, because he was a black boy. And I needed to tell him they not going, he used to hang out with all these students in East Side and they were Brazilian, Portuguese. And I used to tell him, if they stop them, you will not get the same treatment as they will. Because it's just what
In
it
North New
is.
Jersey, I get better treatment than they do
Well,
because
now
of who.
now, yeah, but I'm
Whenever
talking
we in
about
North New
then.
Jersey, I feel like I'm a middle-aged white woman. In
I'm
North
going to
New
hurt him.
Jersey, I feel very much
I'm
safe
going to
because
hurt
I know
you.
I ain't doing nothing illegal. I know I ain't doing nothing crazy. My tail light ain't broken. I know I ain't got nothing to worry about. And I know I ain't got nobody in the car that's gonna have anything on them either. So, you know, I, but I'm very fortunate
He
and
watches
blessed,
the company he keeps. So a
and I'm
young
not
man
yeah.
walked up to him today, brother, minister, and told him out of nowhere, this Latino guy from university. And LeVar got in the car and says, I love my music because music is his passion. And of course, I sang, but that wasn't something I aspired to do, even though what my mother wanted for me is what he wanted me to have for him. But I wanted him to understand that, the music is good, but when it's all gone, you need to be able to have something to fall back on to carry you along with that. So somebody walked up to him today and said, what did God say to you?
He said, I haven't seen you in a while. You been all right? I said I took a little leave, get my mind right. Lost a few people throughout the well, a few people, almost a dozen of people, the past couple years. So it was kind of weighing on me. So, knowing that my mother's going to funerals every day, I said, I needed to take some time off. So I told him that in confidence. And he said, well, while you're going through, there's other people going through worse. And if you're not gonna help them, then who will? So
Hmm.
once again, that's the Lord speaking through someone else. And he's not even a spiritual God. I know he probably believe in God, but he's not even a spiritual, who in a
Yeah,
holler type of dude. He's one, he's a Hispanic guy, but he said if you're
he
not gonna
may
help
have
them,
been who we call in Ifa, the spiritual tradition of our ancestors,
yes,
Eshu.
yes,
Eshu is the Orisha that disguises himself in a very
yeah,
humble form, homeless, drunk, whatever, very modest person to test your commitment. And
wow,
as you, based on how you treat him in connection with your principles and your practice, it reports to the spiritual father for
right,
us that said he was good. I tested him. He came out all right. He didn't give me the finger. You know,
Right.
And I
you
was
may
like,
be
Yes,
not.
street
sir.
doctor. I wanted street doctor. Street doctor was out here. Street doctor, Minister Abdul Haq, were out here trying to save the world with our black boys and our brothers. They was. I said, Lord, please, I just need them to just grab him and just take him. And street would take LeVar to lunch in the cafeteria and then come upstairs and says, he don't need nothing. He's good. He don't need no. I was like, oh my God. LeVar is such a great, he's educated. And I'm
It's
not
not
saying this
about me
because this is
tonight.
my,
It's not about me tonight. It's not about me
no, what I'm
tonight. Let's
saying
not.
is,
Let's
but we
not.
have to watch out for those, listen to me, hear me good. We
Yes,
have a
ma'am.
lot of young people that say they're all right, they know how to talk, but deep down inside, there might be something that we don't see. And they go on through life stagnating the progress of where they could be because they camouflage the pain so good.
Yes,
And
sir.
that happens
Yes,
with
ma'am.
a
Yes,
lot of
ma'am.
our brothers. They camouflage the pain. They know what to say. They know who to talk to. They know how to
But we
talk.
talking about street here. But we talking about street. And I ain't an actor. I ain't in Hollywood.
Oh,
So
but you
for
good.
street to, but I'm just saying, street knew, when someone was BSing, because I kept it real with them, and for me to once again confide in someone, let them know what I was thinking, let them know what I was going through, let them know what the girls was talking, everything. My daughter's mother, he knew, or he had a sense that I was gonna be guided back to the to the path that I was gonna be led down by the Savior. So there wasn't and I try to tell you all the time, Councilwoman, that Street most of the time, even though he was a man and no man is perfect, sometimes he was right. Most of the times when he had a judgment about somebody, it was kind of right. So I'm not saying that I'm not here to toot my own horn, but that's just to put confidence in you that you did a good job raising a son, a black man in America that still has his freedom, still has a license, still has a job. So you did a good job. So let's take the focus on me and let's go back to Ephesians.
So listen,
So,
we got to wrap it up,
and
Roundtree. So
yes.
let you go ahead and wrap this up, Roundtree.
So let me, I want to thank you,
can I
LeVar, for
can I
coming
can I
on.
add to it before? Can I add to it?
Yes,
Can I
sir.
add to it? So
Yes, sir.
I'll give a closing scripture, which is also from the book of Ephesians. Once again, the Lord, Ephesians 4:32, that says, "Be ye kind one to another,
Mm-hmm.
tender-hearted, forgiving one another, even as God, for Christ's sake, has forgiven you."
That's right.
Wow.
That's right.
Wow.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
Amen. I mean,
Wow.
and I Shay. Now listen
Wow.
to Bob real quick, because you
Yes,
don't
sir.
hardly get a chance to get on here. Who you listening to these days?
I'm not listening to, I'm listening to
This
what's
is
his
a hip
name?
hop
Stephen
radio
Furtick.
show.
Um, I
You
listen
talking
to
about rapper, right?
19 Keys.
Okay.
Or you
You
mean
listen,
you mean spiritual, or you mean or music?
hip hop, hip hop. Are you listening to any
Oh,
hip
hip
hop
hop.
music? Yeah.
Uh, I
You know.
honestly, I'm not listening to that much music, which not hip hop. But I got my Kendrick in the playlist. I
Right.
try to stay away from the low frequency music now, because it puts me it gives me anxiety now. And that, not
Mm,
to try to be funny, but it gives me anxiety listening to that music now. And it's crazy because I do music, but I think that's why God has shifted me to make music that is on an upbeat, and I've never been a drill or trap and vulgar rapper, so it's just or artist, I would say, but I got the Kendrick in the in my ear, but I'm listening to a lot of old school now, like I was about to say Frankie Beverly, I'm about to say something else. I'm listening to Barry White. My mother got me on a Barry White. So I'm trying to
check
stay
that
away
Reverend
from
out.
the hip
Louise
hop.
Check
Roundtree.
that out.
Listen to Barry White.
There's a song that Barry
Barry,
White made that I've discovered about 15 years ago, and
Which
yeah,
one?
and I think it's not a popular one. It was you see the trouble with me. I can't
The
do
trouble with
nothing
me.
without my baby. It was
So I'm not
Y'all-
really listening to hip hop nowadays. I'm listening to
but who
more
was your
so with the
old hip
art.
hop artist? Who did you like?
I'm listening to old, yeah.
Who
J
was one of your
Cole, J
favorite old
Cole,
hip hop?
J.
LeVar
Cole. Okay.
OJ's.
Okay.
I see. I think that's Mother, Queen Mother in the chat. Hey Queen Mother, how you doing? Peace and blessings
We
to you.
miss Lady Balena
Um,
Ali tonight
but
too.
J
Sure did.
Cole,
Yes.
J, J
Yeah,
J.
J.
Cole.
Cole,
Cole. Absolutely.
J Cole. I would say, um, dang,
Just
Oh,
whoever
you
comes to
have
your
no
head.
J
old hip
Cole. I
hop
mean,
artists? Didn't we used to listen to the
my old hip
game?
hop. I used to listen to Game 50 Cent. I used to listen to 50 Cent for sure. The Massacre was one of the first songs. I mean, first albums that I purchased. I listened to a lot of R. Kelly when I was younger. Lord help me.
Yeah.
Lord help him.
Can't do
I
nothing
listened
about the
to.
gift, baby.
You're right. You're absolutely right because he definitely
Get
made some good gospel music as well. So, um, my mother knows when she in the car with me, she be hearing me. I'll be playing the Michael Jackson, the Barry White. I'll play the Prince.
She
My mother
she be
know
riding
how nice
shotgun
little tasty
controlling the
music I
radio.
be
You know how
playing
that
when
go.
we on the road. But honestly, yeah, it does something to my spirit listening to Future now, and I know this man got a family to feed, and Drake, he got good music out too, but it's
Lecrae,
not about the
Lecrae,
man
Lecrae,
anymore. It's more
Lecrae,
so about the craft,
and
and if
Lecrae.
the craft doesn't make me feel uplifted, then I need to I distance myself from the craft, So yeah, like I said before, like the hip hop has really it's been giving me anxiety. Some has really been giving me anxiety. Not all, but some of it is really, that drill and the trap it really does something to my spirit. And I don't know if it's the conviction or it's like the psychological thing that that music does to people that go like makes them go out here and drink and drug and and kill people. I think
You giving me
I
fuel for
kind
my
of
next
gotta.
segments, man. Yeah, I hear you.
Yep.
What you say? I'm sorry that broke
You're
up.
giving me fuel for my next segment. I got a serious therapist coming on in the next segment. You raising questions about anxiety, the link to the tension that we got going on in our music with our young heads and whatnot. That's
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
you saying a mouthful. We hear you.
Mhm.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. So I'll definitely come on for the next show for sure. Absolutely, count me in. I
Thank,
appreciate you guys. Thank you.
No, the
Thank
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 you.
next
you. I
show
you.
is
need this.
happening the next show is happening when we get off in the next 30 minutes, and we're already 8 minutes
Oh, the
over.
next show is in the next 30 minutes?
But
Yeah.
Oh,
listen,
okay,
listen.
okay.
No, it's happening now.
Usually
We're already
Jonathan is
over.
coming
well,
in,
I gotta.
uh, chilling her
Oh,
out.
man.
But listen, let me close out real quick. Um, we want to
Close out. Yes, ma'am.
congratulate. We want to congratulate LaMonica McIver on
Yep.
being elected as Congresswoman. My sister, I
Very
miss
proud of
her. I
her. Very
miss her.
proud of her.
I'm left as the only
Yes.
fragrance on the on the council right now. I got to sit with 7 men. Um, I'm sitting
They
with
got the
7.
one. If you got, it's gonna be one. We got the one with you.
Oh, absolutely, sir.
Oh yeah.
Yes. So I am so excited for
My
her.
phone is about to die at 1%. I'm so
Okay.
sorry. Can I?
All
I
right.
want to just say I love you all, and that I'll
Yep.
I'll
Yep.
be on the next
You
show.
are
Well, I
properly
know the next
relieved,
one,
sir.
but
Love you. Love
thank you. I
you,
appreciate
Lamar.
you guys. I love you
Thank
all.
you.
God bless
Thank
you.
you for
Love
Yes,
giving
you
us
too,
a
sir.
sir.
young
Good to see
All
you.
right.
perspective.
Yep.
Yep.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me.
All
All
right,
right.
man.
So yeah, the men's meeting is tonight, as well as we speak. The mayor has his men's meeting going on right now as we speak. Something that I believe, Brother Ed and Baba
Mhm.
Zaid, people don't realize one thing that helps us to be successful is consistency and perseverance. Um, and hi, Queen Mother Maku, and all that the Queen tuned in. I really miss our Queen Lady Ali, my sister, tonight. She is home baking cupcakes. I have
She's
two of my.
baking again. Look out.
No, she baking. These are my daughters. I'm at your church. Oh, hi. I'm on a radio show with LeVar. Yeah, on a, I'm on a live. Hey, baby, look at these beautiful young ladies coming. I come to support them. There's my first lady. Just say hello to everybody. She works in North Public Schools as the head nurse. I got my pastor walking in, looking like he's gonna go in there and shout in a minute. But anyway, so men's meeting tonight. Next Thursday, I will be having my 11th annual prayer breakfast. Um, at Robert Treat Hotel. I do have some tickets left. It starts at 9 o'clock. I will send you a copy of the ticket, Brother Ed, Brother Baba. It'd be nice if y'all stop by. I got a little surprise for one of you. I'm not going to tell you until I call you on the phone and do it, but I'm just letting you know that it is going to be wonderful. It's the 11th year that I have brought together 7 to 8 to 100, whatever, leaders to actually fellowship together between all faiths, Latino, African American. Listen, we are all one. We all came from the motherland. So, we've done all this dividing, but the truth of the matter is we all from Africa. And I'm just excited to bring everybody that looks different, worships different, and works different in the community together. So that is next Thursday, October 3rd. If you call my office at 973-733 uh, 3794. There are a few tickets left. There's no cost. Just call and speak to Demetrius and tell him that you're coming up to get a couple of tickets. But you better call first thing. I have your 5 tickets, Brother Ed, waiting for you at the office for
All right.
next Thursday. And I think that is it. Had 2 mental health seminars this month. Gotta announce this because I won't be back on the air until 2 mental health seminars, very well attended, 60 at the first and over 100 yesterday. Different exercises, different um, I should say, approaches to recognizing what is going on that is causing you maybe from being able to get from one step to the next.
Mm,
And what we don't realize is that some people are walking around undiagnosed that could be further in their, I should say, progressing a little bit better if it wasn't for something that
mm.
might have happened
Being
to them, a
diagnosed and
traumatic
getting help.
experience.
Yes.
And then there are people that have been diagnosed that just can't get past a certain stage. So I think that every month I'm going to have at least 2 or at least 1 seminar with different people coming in, not diagnosing, but identifying things that can contribute to us not doing what we need to do for our mental health. Because if your mental health is not right, your physical health and everything else is not where it needs to be or could be. And so that has been a passion for me. I also partnered with University Hospital for employment opportunities.
Mm,
On Tuesday, I had a employment opportunity. I had an employment. Here's one of my daughters, Lisa. I'm on a radio. Sorry. Hey, baby. I had an employment, a clergy employment campaign. Clergy employment campaign. Over 199 people registered. Actually,
mm.
177 registered, and the clergy, of course, brought in some extra people. And there are over 500 jobs available at University Hospital. My next campaign will be on October 24th from 5 to 7. You can call 973-733-3794 to get the location and watch out for the announcement. We will announce how many people are hired because I don't want to be involved with any type of campaign, partnering with anybody that I don't have statistics and data saying, yes, I had 199 people come, but how many did you hire?
Right.
So that
Right.
that that part, I'm not coming back
Mhm.
to do another one without statistics from University Hospital because today they were going through the applications, and yesterday of those they interviewed on Tuesday. So that part. These are the things, not just as an elected official, because they say when you're elected as a legislator and a council person, your assignment is to pass laws. Well, I believe that when I'm not passing a law, that I should be passing some progress for our communities, for housing, for jobs, for education. And that is all part of being a public servant and
Right.
serving our community. So once again, I thank each and every one of you who have tuned in. Please share, tag, tell somebody about All Politics Are Local. I got to figure out what year we actually started doing this. I
Yep.
think Brother Ed will have to go back and look at the picture we took on City Hall with
Yep.
Minister Abdul Haqq Muhammad when he asked him about doing this. And he and I and Brother Ali, we need to do a big
Anniversary.
celebration,
Hmm.
tribute to Ali, tribute
Hmm.
to the guests who have been on here, and just look at the timeline and invite some people on, which we will be doing. We're working on President Trump and Congresswoman McIver for our next show, The Disciples. But meanwhile, the city of Newark is blessed. We continue to pray for our mayor. We continue to pray for my colleagues, all the leaders of faith, those, Brother Ed, that serve with you and Brother Baba in the movement, the activism movement. We thank you, Baba, for having a voice, the voice that you have in the community. You speak one way, I speak another, Brother Ed speaks another, Minister Hawk speaks another, but we're speaking one voice, and that is the voice for the voiceless on all areas and all circumstances that might be troubling people, that they don't know how to open their mouth and speak truth to power or get out there to say, you know, this ain't right. That's poor English. I love you. Thank you for tuning
Yep.
into the
Love
Disciples.
you.
Thank you, Brother Ed. I love you, and there's
Love
nothing
you.
that you should even want to do about it.
Neither
We love
could you.
you. We love you.
Love you more, Rountree.
Love you
Right
guys.
on. That's
All
right.
right. See you later.
Peace.
Oh, here we go. Great,
Hello.
great segment. And Dr. Susan, we tend to sometimes our segments go on a little longer than they're supposed to.
Quite all right. I feel humbled to hear this conversation. It was
So I want to welcome you to All Politics Are Local. I'm trying to figure out the best way how to introduce this segment, and there's so many ways to go. But let me just introduce it in this way. One, we definitely want to lift up what's going to happen on October 4th with the conference. But we want to try and put what's going to happen with the conference in context with how we have been doing some things locally, where one of the sub issues or secondary developments has been an emerging appreciation, reappraising, reimagining, if you will, of the role of mental health support in our community. The mayor has come into office on the strength of us uh, addressing violence, particularly gun violence in this community, from a public health vantage point, right? And wanting to come in, implementing programs throughout government bodies from a trauma-informed lens. And that just required redoing things and restaffing and repeopling and resourcing certain things, getting done in a certain way. And the emergence of some of our mental health providers within this, what we call our community-based violence intervention ecosystem, has been something that we're very proud of. And it speaks to the practical spaces that your work takes us to. So I want to thank you for coming on. And so before we talk about, and what I'm talking about on October 4th is simply this: decolonizing mental health. Big bold statement.
right.
Big bold statement, right? And something that should definitely land on those of us who have colonized backgrounds,
Mhm.
right, in a very meaningful way, because the mental health field has been a part of the
Colonization.
or the controlling
Yes.
of communities for a long time, and instead of offering help, have been a part of the harm that the colonizing experiences happen. So that's a big deal, and for somebody who's been fighting against colonialism all of his conscious life, I really appreciate it and looking forward to that. But it's coming from a new entity called the Anti-Racist Mental Health Alliance of New Jersey. I said, ooh, I want some of that. And the great Dr. Monique Swift, who was very dear to us on a number of circles here in this town, is the one that brought us to this and then made us aware of it. And I'm glad she did. And she's going to be one of the highlighted voices at the conference next week. But Dr. Susan, tell us about the Anti-Racist Mental Health Alliance of New Jersey. Woo! Tell us about that.
So what I want to start by saying is that we're pretty new. We're only a couple of years, 2 years into our incorporation. And we've joined because we're aware that the mental health system is a problem system, as you have pointed out. It has been colonizing, it's been ineffective or effective to do the wrong things for the longest time. And there are many people who are working in that system who do not have a sense of how damaging that system has been. Am I still on? Because
you're fine. You're fine. We hear you fine. Yes, ma'am.
Okay. So the program next week, it has Dr. Swift as one of the speakers, and she's going to be talking about the concept of decentering whiteness. And then our primary keynote speaker is...
Wait. Can you say that one more time?
Yes, I can. About decentering whiteness, that white people should not be in the center or the main thing that is creating what kind of help we give. It shouldn't come from a Eurocentric perspective. It needs to come from the perspective of various groups that need or want the services. And I could go through some specifics of what I mean by that, but I don't want to speak for Dr. Swift. She will do her own presentation, but that is the topic of her presentation, is to decentering whiteness. The other presentation is being presented by Dr. Jennifer Mullen, who has written a book called Decolonizing Mental Health. Yeah. And she is our keynote speaker. And the topic of her talk and of the conference is Decolonizing Mental Health Treatment, Culture as Generational Medicine. Because one of the big issues, of course, is the lack of respect and recognition even that people come from different cultures and how they experience the events that happen, how they think about those events, how they see the rest of the society, how they see their own problems is different, depending upon the different backgrounds and current contexts in which people are living. So and the cultural issue and the generational issue is, of course, that many of these themes and issues go back for generations. This is not a new thing in the United States. It's at least 400 years old. And in Europe, it's even older. So the white perspective, the Eurocentric perspective on what is good, what's bad, what's sick, what's not sick, what's healthy, what's not healthy, who you should be to be a healthy person is problematic because it doesn't really take into account the history and experience of people who are not white. So she will be talking about that, and her book is wonderful. And again, I don't want to steal her thunder because she says it much better than I say it. And then in the afternoon, we have a panel. I don't know if you know Hazelyn Pilgrim. She's she's one of the people on the panel, and David. I'm blocking on it. See, now I'm almost 79 years old, so I start blocking on names, and it really gets me crazy. So
I'm doing it too. I'm in my 60s. But I know who you're talking about. I'm trying to imagine the list in front of my face. I know you're talking about. Yeah.
No, listen. Naeed ain't the only old man up in here. Me and him both in that 60 range. You know,
I have another decade on you guys. So, and then the other person is Jesselie de la Cruz, who's with the Latino Action Network, and so she's the other person on the panel. And they're going to be talking about cultural responses to mental health issues and how that needs to be incorporated in any kind of treatment intervention. So that's the conference. Now, the group, the Anti-Racist Mental Health Alliance, is open to anyone. It's not for mental health professionals.
That was going to be one of my first questions. I'm glad you lifted that up. Go right ahead. Keep going.
So it's for anyone who's interested in this intersection between racism and mental health. Because we recognize that there's huge problems in the mental health system, and we need the input, not just from professionals, but from consumers, from people who are just interested in the question. Anybody who's interested can be a part of our association. And I want to give you just like a sense of two, I think, big things that we're particularly concerned about, but there's a bunch of others, okay? One is this whole issue of how mental health providers understand or do not understand the clients that they're trying to work with. So there's all kinds of interactions that take place in what is supposed to be therapeutic encounters that often are counter-therapeutic, that are often injurious, actually. Interpretations that people make of the other, that therapists make of the other. So I'll just give you like a quick concrete example of what I'm talking about. The Eurocentric approach, white people's dominance in this country, is very tied to individualism. It's very tied to competitiveness. It's very tied to achievement in very limited kinds of ways. And so that's a kind of a style of living and trying to be at that actually, I think, is a cost for those white people who are struggling with that, because they're often out of a community. They're not part of really a community. They're not part of really, a collective. People of color tend to be much more collectivistic. They're much more connected to communities, to churches, to activities that they get engaged in, what have you. So one of the things that often happens in therapeutic encounters that are really, I think, very problematic is that white therapists who don't understand this problem often find behaviors of people of color who are operating in a more collectivistic way as problematic. Why'd you take off from work to go visit your cousin in, Toledo? Somebody else can take care of her. You need to be here doing your work, right? And that kind of approach is very destructive. It's not helpful. It's definitely not helpful. So we're trying to focus on trying to educate the therapeutic community. And I have to tell you that while this is a Eurocentric problem, there are a lot of people of color who, through their training, have internalized that same sense of what's healthy. And so we're talking to the entire therapeutic community in terms of what's going on in their interactions with clients. And we're not in the academics. I mean, a number of us have been through, we have doctorates and different things. We've been through academia, but we're not necessarily academics at the moment. And a lot of this continues in the academic communities as well, right? So we're trying, it's like almost like an uphill battle here, because person has already been trained. They've already gone through practical experiences. They've already been told this is the way to do it and this is what you should be doing. And now they get it and come into the real world, and somebody else is telling them, no, this is not a good way to be doing this. So we're trying to undo, so to speak, some of the things that people have learned, so that therapy can be helpful. Now, this brings me to the other main thing that I wanted to talk about today, which is the lack of enough people of color in the profession. Okay, and it is particularly disgusting in psychology, which I am a psychologist. Okay, the last time I saw data on this, 84% of the psychologists in the country are white. Okay, and something like 4 or 5% Black and 5 or 6% Latinx. I mean, it's ridiculous. And in New Jersey, when we think about truly the diversity of the population in New Jersey, when we think about how many people we have here who do not speak English as a native language, and not enough people who speak those languages who are providing therapy, it is particularly important that we in New Jersey really take a look at this. So the question is, what's getting in the way of people getting into the field. All right. And, one could go back to early childhood and experiences in school and all of that stuff, but I'm going to stay with the tail end for right now. So you go through school, you go through social work school, psychology, you get your degree, you do your practicum experiences, and then to get licensed, you have to take an exam. And there are huge disparities in the pass rates for white people versus people of color in the pass rates on these exams, social work as well as psychology. All right. And this is part of the problem is, and I'll try to can get a little technical here. So I want to get to the main points. The issue is that that the licensing process ultimately is totally in the hands of the local board of examiners. So in New Jersey, we have a New Jersey Board of Psychological Examiners. We have a New Jersey Board of Social Work Examiners. They're the ones who technically set the rules for how somebody's going to be admitted into the licensing. But all of the states have decided over time to subscribe to a single national exam for psychologists and a single national exam for social workers. And so everybody in the country is taking the same, for those two disciplines, the same two exams. And that's where the data is that we're getting in terms of the disparities. We don't even know what the disparities are in New Jersey. No one is keeping track. No one has the data for what percentage of our psychologists are white, what percentage are Black. Social work just came out with some of the data regarding to the exam, who passed and who didn't, but not the general license holders. So we don't even have that data. The boards are not collecting that data. That to me is like number one. We need to know what's really going on and how that is different from the population of New Jersey, right? If we have a population of New Jersey where whatever percent in the teens or whatever is Black, there should be at least that many Black therapists there, right? If we have a population that I understand 30% of the population of New Jersey does not speak English in their homes, we need to have at least 30% of the population of therapists speaking the languages that are being spoken.
How about that?
So the first thing that I think we need to know is what we actually have. And so I've been at the Board of Psychological Examiners twice now. I'm planning to go back again in 2 weeks because I've been asking them about this. And so they have the process at the board meetings is you can have a public person come in and say what they want to say and ask what they want to ask, but there are no answers given. There's no answers given. You can say, well, I know that you don't have do you have the data? No, we don't have that data. I know that you don't have the data. Have you thought about trying to get the data? No answer. No answer. They'll take it into conference wherever. So I'm just sharing with you that this is like a very closed kind of situation. And further, I'll just tell you one more thing about this because I don't want to take up all the time, is that this also has national repercussions because, right? And so the people from each of the boards meet together as a national group, all right? And they can influence this decision about the licensing exam. But when I was at the board the first time I went, I raised the issue about language. And I want to tell you, the individual board members seemed interested in this, but this is kind of something that's under the governor's office ultimately. And so it's very tight and close-lipped, and I would love some help in getting through that, through this process. But so they weren't hostile to what I was asking, but they couldn't answer the questions. And so one of the people, though, who was on the board, who's a Black woman, who, when I talked about the language thing, she said she had been at one of these national meetings, I don't know, a couple of years back, and she raised the question particularly around Spanish and whether there could be a Spanish language version, because one of the things we know for a fact is that if English is not your first language, you have a higher failure rate on that exam.
Yes.
Right? So she raised this question, and now she's sitting in a meeting with people from every state in the country. I'm sure Texas doesn't care about this. I don't even know if New Jersey cares about it, but I care about it. So I'm saying we need to find this out about our current people. And she's saying, well, they didn't even want to touch that issue of the exam. And so out it went, it couldn't even be discussed in terms of getting a Spanish version of that exam. So I'm just saying that this is something we want to take on as an organization. We want to, and we want to publicize it. We want because let me tell you something, not even all the people who know what that exam is doing. The people who pass the exam, forget about it, right? Then they go on the rest of their careers. Like, it doesn't feel to them like it's impacting on anybody. So, you know, I hope
that's a lot. That's a lot. Dr. That's a mouthful.
Yeah.
That's a mouthful. And I appreciate you lifting that up, because that dictates, you know, some of the places that we need to go. You know, it's one thing to raise the question of consciousness and the issue of, you know, different directions and tolerance, right? You know, but it's another thing to actually, you know, resource how these conversations are supposed to happen, right? One of the things that's very important in what we do in terms of community-based violence intervention work is that it's data-driven, right? We have been pushing that, you know, that conversation in a very data-driven way. One of the most stubborn places that we have trouble with, because there's a direct relationship between that and community policing relationships, is the police are terrible in that, locally and nationally.
Right.
Terrible with that. Right. One of the bills that we've been trying to get pushed through on the federal front is to standardize policing and standardizing data development around how policing is done, managed, and disciplined. Right. So you know, that is a problem that is coming back to the theme of the conference. There's a colonial problem.
Yeah, there's a lot of problems.
Colonial baggage.
Right. And I have to share with you the irony of this is that 3 years ago, I guess now, 2021, after the George Floyd murder and all the little brouhaha that went on for a period of time, all these professional associations issued apology social
Yes.
Are you aware of that?
Yeah. Yes.
American Psychological Association, the National Association of Social Workers, the psychiatrists, they all said they're going to change. They're going to change. They're going to do it differently. Now, this licensing thing is actually not in the hands of the professional associations. It's in the hands of these licensing boards and then the national conglomerate of them. All right. The associations are the associations that the professionals are in and can work on behalf of the professions. So there's a lot of conflict actually in the professional organizations about how much to push the issue of dealing with racism. All right. But those boards are totally free of that. They are appointed by the governor. And I don't know what the governor does with respect to what those boards are doing, but I will tell you one thing that I learned at the last meeting was that there's supposed to be 7 people sitting on the board. They only have 3 people, and they haven't filled those spots in several years.
That's very Jersey. That's a very Jersey thing.
So,
yeah. So Wow. Let me ask you this. And now, you were very transparent about how long you've been here on your own walk. What turns you in this direction? I mean, a lot of folks can just sit back comfortably and just kind of let things go and not be bothered with the uncomfortable spaces that these conversations take us to.
Right.
So I would say that I've always been kind of interested in social justice. You know, I used to go on civil rights demonstrations back in the 60s and anti-war stuff and all that kind of stuff. But in my career, in my professional career, I've also primarily worked in communities of color. So I worked at UMD&J for 11 years, and I worked at Lincoln Hospital in the Bronx for 7 years, and I worked at the old United hospitals for about 10 years. And so I've worked in those communities, and I've always been concerned about the inequities, that existed. But I have to tell you, as much as I thought I had some level of sophistication, I went to the Undoing Racism training in 2009, and it really turned all the switches in my head.
Yeah.
Because as a psychologist, I was so focused on individual families and people. Okay. So I would see clients and I would work with clients, but I wasn't focused on the structural elements of all of this. And after I went to the Undoing Racism training, I I joke about this. I took it at least 15 times. I became like a groupie for the Undoing Racism training because I kept learning more stuff every time I went. So what I started to feel was the changes can't just be made at the educational level, as I was saying before about trying to change the individual therapists and how they work. It has to be made at a more systemic level.
Now, as you're talking about it, are you referring to the work of the People's Institute?
I am.
Yeah. Great work. Yes.
Right. So that the first time I took that was in 2009. And so that's when I said, oh, wait a second. This is not just about the individual work that people are doing. This is about how the whole system works. Let me just say one example of this. I was doing a workshop this morning. I won't go through where, but it was a bunch of young people in the field in school. And I was talking about the difficulties of the work and trauma. It was a big trauma focused conversation. And one of the young people started talking about a particular interaction she had with a new client that she just met because she's brand new in doing this work. And what she described was really a huge amount of pain in this young person, a shift in this young person's response to her when she said something she didn't even know what she had said or done. And when we got off the call, I was speaking to the faculty member associated with this. And I said, one of the biggest problems, and this is a structural problem, is that we bring the most inexperienced people to the biggest problems. Okay. We have a kid who's having all kinds of difficulties functioning, exploding all over the place, moving from one way to another in the drop of a hat. And we're sending in a total newbie to work with this person. And what she told me was she didn't even have a supervisor at this point.
Wow.
So
Yeah.
what is, now,
Getting overwhelmed from the start.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And that is typical. People get their training on poor people of color. And then when they get skills, they go into private practice.
Mm-hmm.
That's the way the system works. That's how we educate our newbies. There's something very crazy about that.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
There's something very racist about that.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I don't know if you've heard of this book, but there's a black doctor out of Harlem. She's a third generation doctor, and she wrote this book. Right, it's called Legacy. Her mother was a doctor. Her sister was a doctor, and so was she. They all three graduated from Harvard, by the way. And they talk about the level of racism. And by the way, she still lives in Harlem, still practices in Harlem. And she talks about in the book, she talks about the level of racism that she had to go through. And she talked about the black doctors who, the way they came through was that they had black mentors, right? Who mentored them through medical school. And they talked about the level of racism that was in the testing, right? And that you had to be taught how to take the test, even though you were smart enough, even though you understood the sciences. She talked about, she talks about in the book that black doctors coming through at the time her mother came through in the 70s would not have made it through without a mentor. And then talked about her not being able to make it through had not it been for her mother, right? And what you're talking about is a problem that is still persisting today for black psychologists, right? And then when you talk about, this is something we talk about with a brother who comes on this show named Michael Barbie, right? He's wrote a couple of books around psychology and around black men. The mayor has a black males group. Michael Barbie has a black male group. For us, we don't see black psychologists, right?
Especially
Yeah,
men, especially.
That's
yeah,
right.
especially men.
Right.
And so for us to be able to, and so we tend to suffer in silence, right? So because we don't think one is macho for us to be able to share those kinds of emotional, deep hurt, deep feelings, especially based around the experiences of racism that we encounter, and then the
Being,
cost.
being victimized by violence.
Yeah, and then the price that cost our families, right? So we don't share that because we don't necessarily have those professionals in our community. And you're right. White folk tend to get their experience on every level, whether it be from an MD level, whether it be from a psychologist level, right? They get their experience in the black community, and then yeah, you're right. They move to Short Hills, Livingston, and open up their practices, but they practice medicine on us, right? And that yeah, and we saw that. A lot during COVID, right?
Mm.
If you think about a lot of the, we've even talked to a couple of black female doctors who said that when they caught COVID, they had to go in and be treated, and they were trying to tell doctors that they were doctors and trying to explain to them what was wrong with them and what was going on and how they were being belittled, and they had the same damn degree, same education, and even from some better colleges, but they were being hit with racism,
That's right.
right? And in some cases, because COVID was early on and they couldn't figure out what it was until they came up with a cure. Some black doctors even died.
Yeah, sure.
Because of the racism.
Well, that what you're talking about right now is certainly very similar to what's happening to black women in delivery rooms.
That's right. Absolutely.
Where, nobody's, because they're black, nobody's paying attention to their complaints about whatever symptoms they're having.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right. And Zaid, I think we had somebody in your family who came on and talked to us about that.
Mr. Charlie is a leading voice for the salvation of social justice and black maternal health.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
and that's my niece. She's a doula. She's a doula. She's a practitioner as well as an advocate on the public policy front. And it's a space that definitely is merits all of the attention that we can get for, because at this late date now, we're losing young women at childbirth in a way that just should not happen. This should not happen.
Yes.
And the baggage of racist treatment and is very visible.
Right. And I'm aware that for a long time people were saying, well, they must have been poor, they didn't get prenatal care and so forth. But it turns out, particularly around this issue of birth, that's not a significant factor. The factor is race. Is that you have black doctors, black lawyers, people who are professional people who are black going through labor and saying, I'm having pain here, I'm feeling this, whatever they're saying, and nobody's paying attention. And that actually goes back to much earlier medicine that's still kind of in people's heads, that black people can tolerate pain or whatever it is. Right. So, and there's stuff in psychology and psychiatry like that too, that goes back like 150 years. That
she froze.
Because I wanted to ask around the brother.
If you can hear us, go out and come back in because you froze, and then we'll wind up your segment because you were on a roll.
And one of the questions I want to get to, Zaid, about the brother who was just murdered, right? In Missouri.
Yes.
How much
Marcellus Williams.
Yes.
Yeah. Oh, hey, you back? You're good.
The murder, the killing of that guy is what you're talking about.
Marcellus Williams, prosecuted in Oklahoma.
Right.
How much of that had to do with racism, right?
A whole lot.
And the fact that, you
Absolutely.
know, I mean, they just did not see him as a living human being, right? And there was no way that he could have been innocent, right?
Mhm.
Absolutely no way. I mean, and so,
Even though the
you know,
DNA said he's very innocent.
absolutely. But that is the level of psychological damage, right? That is going on in the minds of some white folks, right? You know,
And it reminds of some of us too. And this is something that I try and raise because one of my secondary missions in terms of what I do is to try and challenge young men to go into the fields.
Mhm, mhm.
Psychology, psychiatry, and social work because
Right.
we just need to be there. We're carrying a lot of our community's problems. We need a lot of the treatment. You know, some of us come from spaces where we recognize that we've harmed and been harmed.
Mhm.
Because of that, we need to be able to transition in our recovery and discovery and to grow into those positions to become parts of the solutions as instead of being a perpetual a part of the problem to break these chains,
Right.
to really shift these paradigms.
Yeah.
So it's important really to do. Let me wind down with this. One of the things that I try and do in that pursuit, right? I in my political background, my whole life changed around the discovery of Malcolm X personally, and I actually run the Malcolm X Commemoration Committee in New York City, right? And one of the pivotal things that happened to him and his family in childhood is that there was a social worker who came in and aided the state in breaking up their family, right? And that did irreparable harm to some of them in a very large family. And it is certainly one of the things that set Malcolm off into the delinquency that he had that he endured. With the work that we're doing now in community-based violence intervention, and challenging the health departments of the land and that broader public health paradigm to see violence as a public health emergency, we have a wave of people coming into the field actually being able to engage in spaces that speak to their real life experiences,
Right.
and that's overwhelmingly managed and populated by Black and brown women, right?
Mm.
Still coming up short on brothers, but that's where the shift is happening,
That's
right?
right.
There
Right.
is a shift, and appreciating what you're doing to in terms of how you're trying to build out ARMA is that the membership is also for laypersons. I'm in the process of looking for training that's the Association of Black Psychologists does for what they call Sawabona circles, right?
Mm.
It's a community-based,
Right.
healing circles in the aftermath of traumatic events,
Correct.
right? And that drives the work from the bottom up. And
Yes.
that has to happen if there's going to be policy
That's
change.
critical. That's critical. We're actually, are you aware of a group called PEP, the Parents Engaging Parents in Newark?
No, we need to that you should
Walter
share
Fraser,
that too. Mm-hmm.
Walter Fraser is the executive director of that. He's
Mm-hmm.
actually, hello. um, he's actually on our board, and we actually have a grant that we've gotten with him, the two groups, to do some just general discussions about mental health issues in a couple of places where he has venues that he can utilize.
We
So
need to
that
make the connection because we're really trying to push this into the public school space, right? Because we definitely need to, and if there's anything that sharpened that for, should have sharpened it for this country is the impact as an anxiety trigger. And I might be using the wrong language. You're the doctor in the house, right? That COVID had on all of our anxieties, but particularly this generation of young folks who are in school.
that's right.
Right? We've got a child and one of our DJ is going through a family situation with one of his children as we speak. My daughter went through a lot with her mental health. She was in high school at the time and she took a dive, and her legs aren't all the way underneath
I
her
got
yet.
grandchildren, one of whom is
Yeah.
struggling now. I mean,
It should have been that just and George Floyd and the COVID, pandemic converged. And there should have been a national, you know, reawakening and reckoning and reimagining that did not happen, unfortunately. So we've
right.
got work to do to help this country unpack that. And ironically, the person that's that just popped in here is who represents the organization that's the co-sponsor for the conference, and it's been a firebrand amongst us for decades that I'm particularly proud of. So Cuqui, stay right there, right? We're winding up. I want to just say this too, Barbara. I put in the chat the link for the conference. I also want to lift up that I work with the New Jersey Violence and Intervention and Prevention Programs Coalition.
Yes.
We help drive the Seabrooks Washington bill, right?
Yeah.
That's
And I think you're coming to our conference, right? To
yeah,
tell
oh yeah, I'll definitely be there. But I
So-
wanted to lift up Raquel Romans Henry, who's going to be speaking at lunchtime about the Seabrooks Washington bill, because that impacts the work in a very practical way.
Yeah.
Right?
Thank you for
So
that.
we're really looking forward to that. We're really looking forward to that. Appreciate you having you. Now Ed is going to ask you a question that's probably going to make you laugh,
Okay.
right? But you know, just to take it out on a joy note, because we're fighting for resilience, right? And ask Dr. Susan the ritual question, as is our practice.
Oh, wait, I can't hear you.
You muted
And Susan, you might surprise us. You know, he's talking about he's going to make you laugh. You might really surprise us. So
Right.
Susan, we are a political hip hop radio talk show, and normally we would be in the studio, but since COVID, we've been able to, you know, kind of do this kind of thing as well. So when you kind of going through different struggles and so forth, are there any political hip hop artists or any hip hop artists in particular that music that you listen to that perhaps keep you encouraged and keep you going?
No, I'm an old-fashioned folk music person. I told you about where I come from, right? I told you about my college years, right?
So on the folk front, who you listen to?
Oh, well, actually, one of my favorite people is Paul Robeson. But I also like, I mean, that's really way back, right? That's my mother brought me into folk, Paul Robeson. Okay, so we're talking old now, all right? But you know, what's her name? See, I'm losing the names here, but I have all the imagery in my head. Joan Baez, you know, Bob Dylan. I mean, that's my generation.
Odetta.
Odetta,
you know,
Belafonte.
just lost Bernice Reagan Johnson, who was I had a huge crush on her.
Absolutely.
Yes.
That's who I listen to even now.
But be careful now. You start giving some names, we start going looking for beats, right?
That's right.
When
you see Bob Dylan and Bernice Reagan Johnson getting sampled, that's how hip hop works.
We start going in the crates.
But I live for that. I would love to see somebody. Can you imagine somebody sampling Paul Robeson? Oh my God.
I have a number of his original recordings that I now have on discs or what have you, but he actually, to me, is I don't know, there's something about his voice that's just so I don't know, profound. I don't even know what the right words are, but you know,
it can sing in 25 languages.
So
he was a force. Yes, he was. Straight out of Princeton, New Jersey, by the way, everybody.
That's right. That's right.
Well, it's been a pleasure to have you. We're looking forward to the 4th. That's next. What is the 4th? Next Friday?
Yeah, a week from today.
Friday. That's right. Next Friday. Right. Looking forward to being there and building with the veteran and the younger practitioners and looking at how we can move the needle further, because we got lives to save and communities to heal.
So where's it going to be at? Where's it going to be next Friday?
At the New Jersey Law Center in New Brunswick.
Okay. Yeah.
And is it
look in the chat?
I'm sorry.
Is it a ticketed event or?
It is, and you can get the information through our website, which is www.armha-nj.org.
And I have it on our YouTube page. We will add it to our Facebook page in a moment. Absolutely. Okay. Thank you, Dr. Susan. Pleasure to have you.
Thank you, Dr. Susan. Appreciate your contribution. Thank you.
It's really been an honor to be talking to you guys. So thank you.
Feel free to come back anytime.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Good stuff. Good stuff. Good stuff. She was nervous about how she was going to manage this conversation. She killed it.
She give us no room to talk. What did she talk
Yeah,
about?
she killed it. Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. About 50 years in doing this work, she killed it.
Yeah.
And, and that's one of the things that's important also to appreciate. And it's something that Amir used to get in my ass about, probably for talking like that, because coming from a nationalist background, we do things, we're strong on self-reliance.
Yeah.
Right. But when it comes to like making changes on policy front and institutional front, multiracial strategies are important. Right. We're looking at reparations for the first time going into multiracial space. This whole thing that we're talking about with criminal justice reform that Cuqui is getting ready to talk about. We're talking about within the field of psychology and public health and whatnot. It requires a multiracial united strategy to make those kind of things happen. And then this one is a veteran on that.
Yeah. Yeah.
So Cuqui, come on in, talk to us. What's happening? What's happening, my queen? And by the way, before we go any further, DJ Rhino in the house, but DJ Cuqui will blast your ass if you ain't ready.
Yeah.
One of the baddest DJs in our universe, for real. Right? And so I'm, we're glad to have you here in this space on a lot of fronts, right? But we got stuff coming up, heavy stuff coming up, right? That you have your hands on in a very full 10-fingered way, to say the least. I should say 20-fingered, right? That we need to talk about, right? State of New Jersey, soprano state as we know it, has always been a wild state when it comes to incarceration. And here we are, and one of the places that we struggle with is this whole question of how our folks are treated on the inside when we're in captivity, right? Then we're talking about solitary confinement, right? In the space of fighting against this whole notion of mass incarceration, right? One of the battlegrounds is putting some real checks on what's known as solitary confinement. I just this past Sunday, I was in Philadelphia for a memorial tribute to the late great Russell Maroon Schultz, who's one of our most feared political prisoners that came out of the Black Panther Party and the Black Liberation Army, right? And I mean that in the military sense for real, right? But Maroon, like a lot of his comrades, spent more than 3 decades in solitary confinement. 3 decades. 3 decades. 49 years in prison altogether, but 3 decades in solitary confinement. Now, there's something in UN standards that's known as the Mandela Rules. Mandela Rules, named after who else but Nelson Rolihlahla Mandela, who spent 27 years in prison. And the Mandela Rules say that no one should be held in solitary confinement for no more than 22 hours, right? And to go from what I'm talking about to what UN Human Rights Standards is talking about is a wild leap for those who ain't about to change. But we're about to change because we know the harm that perpetual solitary confinement can do. And it's huge on the question of somebody's mental health. It's huge. And how do you expect someone to come out from something like that and at some point come back into society and be functional if that's how you're treating them? Right? So, the system that we're talking about of mass incarceration is not just backwards, it's barbaric, I would dare say, in how it treats us when they get us in the clutches of the state. So how has this been playing out in recent months, Cook, in terms of Jersey and how we're trying to battle with this in Jersey, and what's happening on October 1st to address it?
Well, I put a link in the chat that I need you to put public because I don't know how to do it. And that is a press conference that's going to happen at 6 p.m. It's open to the public, and the QR code just takes you to the registration page. But as this is a hip hop channel, I wanted to kind of like close the other part of your show with the Lady Susan there. about Paul Robeson and, you know, sampling voices and stuff. Hip hop show, right? Let's just say they sample Maya, they sample Martin, they sample Malcolm. It's just a natural turn of events to sample Paul as well, right? So these are things they should be doing, right?
Yeah.
Baraka's doing his own poetry out there. I got his music, I play it, you know that. But so yes, that's a natural thing that somebody should be doing, a producer should be doing. There's that part. The second part is that yes, Dr. Jessie De La Cruz is the executive director of Latino Action Network Foundation, and she is presenting in that conference. But also, if you go to landfoundation.org, please type that into the public web part of this show as well. You will see that we've done some work last year on mental health directly for people of color before the Decolonizing conference is occurring.
Right.
There's an entire policy roundtable expert report for Latino mental health. And then we took it further and we had a policy expert roundtable on Black mental health. And both of those reports are already up in our website in a couple of languages, right? The dream of that was honestly to kind of like take both of those two reports and kind of like bring us together. Yes. You know, have a Black and brown mental health policy roundtable report, because there's a lot of very serious and constructive recommendations in both of those reports. So that's just some of the stuff that we do over at the Land Foundation, but important to the conversation that you just had, right?
Absolutely.
So along with the New Jersey Prison Justice Watch and many others, there's a coalition of us in the Prison Justice Watch where we are drawing light through a press conference on October 1st at 6 p.m. on ICRA, Isolated Confinement Restriction Act. It is a law that passed for the adult incarcerated in 2019. It's here we are in 2024, and we're still struggling with these things for whatever reason. There is a full report that will be released on October 1st, and there will be public testimonies that will be coming from family members and some folks who have been recently released as well to describe the conditions that's over there and much, much more. But it's a very significant press conference because we as advocates and warriors, we're in these conversations on a daily, right? But the general public doesn't know anything about this. And they never do unless we continue to push this message out publicly. So this is one that we are proud to say that we're not only registering the press, we're registering the public as well. I run several social media listservs on Facebook. The Integrated Justice Alliance, which is well over 2,000 strong, and it's completely New Jersey criminal justice reform, the real news, if we want to go there, right? But it's something that you can stay very current with and very accurate with at all times. We're talking about a press conference that we're having here in New Jersey. And even if you look on the Integrated Justice Alliance just from yesterday, the New York Times put out an article just yesterday about isolated confinement in New York as it relates to the incarcerated female population and why it failed. So that's a big article there as well. That seems to just fall right in line with the press conference that we're having this coming Tuesday. So that's some of the stuff as far as isolated confinement goes is happening right now. So I hope everyone can join us. It is a webinar.
I was literally trying to post that and knock myself off the air.
Oh, you didn't hear that?
Yeah, no, I heard part of it, but I was literally trying to post that up and bam, I knocked myself off.
So I don't feel so lonely.
So yeah, that's huge. That's huge, and you know, and it's pathetic that we're this late stage of the game that we've got so far to go with this on this, and not just here in Jersey, but throughout the country.
Well, that's the thing, because Jersey kind of like leads in so many ways as it comes to creating legislation and getting it enacted and all of that stuff. But it's really challenging sometimes for a lot of reasons, which we'll dive into a little bit in the press conference and in our advocacy as well. But there's a lot of reasons why compliance is a problem, right? Compliance and implementation is always a big problem.
Always, yeah.
So that's what keeps the work alive here. And mental health, if you will. I mean, just being incarcerated for decades, just leave it at that for a moment. Being incarcerated for a couple of decades, how do you expect to come out of there when you may not have ever even held a cell phone? Let's just be practical about this. You don't know how to get a bus. You don't even know what that is anymore. You don't know how to go to welfare. You don't know how to walk around people. That's without isolated confinement. And imagine if you're going through extended bouts of isolation. On top of that, the deprogramming and the mental health work that you need is not really out here. That kind of specialty is not out here to help you deprogram yourself from that kind of structure that you've survived for so many years. So mental health is pervasive from the door, and you can take that back even further because it's 9.9 times out of 10 that is mental health that got you in there in the first place. You know, it's 9.9 times out of 10, if not 10, that your parents and your ancestors went through things that survived that's still running through your blood.
Not addressed.
Not addressed. We don't even know. We don't even know it exists. We just sit in chaos and we think that's normal. Right.
And that's what we call historical trauma, right?
And it's
we have
connected.
a very basic saying in our work, you know, hurt people hurt people.
Yes.
You know,
yes.
Until we get to help them address their hurt. That's what drives that cycle, that perpetual cycle of dysfunction and violence. Yeah. Wow. Well, let's shift. Go ahead. That's fine. Go ahead.
I just wanted to, see before we move on, Cuqui, I wanted to see if I could get your comment on the recent murder of the prisoner, the Muslim brother out in Minnesota that they recently.
Marcellus, he's talking about Marcellus Williams in Missouri.
So the way, Edward, I would answer that is kind of like pointing to something else we're working on with the Working Summit in January. But the way I would kind of point to that is something right here in Jersey. Some of you saw that the Attorney General is doing something. He's made a lot of charges against the state police.
Yeah.
About messiness over there. And my hat's off to him for that, honestly. But the problem with that is that most of the time, it's always about the state police. But we don't deal with the state police in our communities. We deal with local police departments and local chiefdoms and local structures and local practices and behaviors and all of that. And so that really doesn't get to the root of the problem, right? And this is something that we've been dealing with and working to affect for many years, right? We're working on something called the Working Summit 25. And what we're doing with that is on January 7th and 8th, and I put the link in the chat, Zaid, for you to share as well publicly, that we're right now gearing up to have a 2-day event in January at Monmouth University, and it's confirmed, where we're going to look at the entire criminal justice system, from the policeman that pulled you over for a ticket to the Returning Citizen Support Group in Newark that receives you when you come out of prison and actually even welcomes you at the gate. And just looking at every single structure of that system and to say how to fix it. We had a summit 20 years ago where we developed an action agenda to constructively reform criminal justice in New Jersey for the adult mass incarcerated population. And we live and sit in that, the results of that summit now. The Bonnie Watson Coleman Act of 2010, there was about 30, 40 laws that passed. Isolated confinement, police licensing, bail reform, all of it. 83,000 prisoners, people on probation and parole can now vote. These are all laws that passed since 2010. But so where are we now? So we are bringing together vested people from state leadership to grandmothers to people returning from prison into this room, and we're not sitting in a room of talking heads. We're sitting in a room where Ed Riley just came out of prison 20 years ago, and he's talking to Cuqui, the mother, and say, well, how would you fix it, Ms. Rivera? How would you fix it? So this is a room that's going to be about 300-400 strong, and we're going to ask the audience, which will have everybody in it. We'll have police in it, we'll have parole in it, we'll have returning citizens in it, we'll have the Department of Corrections, parole, the Public Defender's Office. Everybody's in it. And this event will be actually run by the incarcerated people that I worked with 20 years ago to build the seed in the first place.
Mm-hmm.
Not only is it completely facilitated by returning citizens, I've already spent the entire summer right now in East Jersey State Prison, in Edna Mahan Prison, and in the Juvenile Justice Commission, speaking with the incarcerated again, because they've already submitted their own recommendations for this action agenda that this event will produce in January. So this is a major and a historic event that's trying to get at not just the whole system, number one, the whole pervasive mental health issues of the criminal justice system on every side of the fence, not just the lack of compliance and implementation of the laws, but also breaking down again our silos in Black and brown communities. You know, and my partner back then, some of you may know of him. His name is Jerome Harris. He used to be the chairman of the New Jersey Black Issues Convention. He used to be the city attorney in Trenton, Plainfield, and I don't know where else. Board chairman of Institute for Social Justice, and I can go on and on and on. He was my partner 20 years ago, and he'll be the keynote speaker right now.
I haven't heard from that brother in a long time. Good to hear that.
We're bringing him up for this one. So this is a major event where we're looking at and we're challenging ourselves to break those chains and be part of the solution, right? It's a lot to chew because how many times have either of you gone to a conference and you were doing the talking and there was no talking heads? That's an awkward position. That's an awkward conversation. You're waiting for the experts to talk. No. You live this. Academia is going to be there. They don't get a lot of, glory. They do all the data. They do all the research. Social work we're talking about this. We're talking about the absence of clinicians of color.
Right.
All of that stuff. You should be looking at those reports at the Land Foundation because they're telling you why that is. And they're giving you the solutions and the answers to why that is. So the poor man in God bless, well, may he rest in peace in Minnesota and everywhere else. This is not a isolated, for lack of a better word, incident. This is happening all the time.
Not at all. It's going. In
no
fact,
matter
it's going
what we do, no matter how much we fight, it's happening all the time. I can't turn around without looking at the news that it happened somewhere else.
Yeah.
While we deal with our own families, you talk about Rhino. I'm his number one groupie. Make sure his wife know I respect him. I'm his number one groupie. He's going through it with his kids. My son was in Florida right now last night. I don't even want to tell you what he went through last night. We all go through it. So, and we're still trying to hold that torch, right? But my thing has always been and continues to be that we have to break these silos of being in these corners. And what I'm kind of proud of, if you will, is that this happened. We broke these silos with mass incarceration. Black and brown people came together here and stayed there. We still got the same problems with poverty, with education, with housing, with health. Well, let me keep on going, should I? But we stayed together here with this. We're still fighting to get together in those other arenas. And that's not acceptable to me. It's not acceptable to me that 20 years later, I had to reconvene this and pull these partners back together to sit in the room and be able to speak with each other, not to each other, not about each other, and not for each other, to speak with each other, to build this the right way. And you're looking at it. We didn't have laws before. We have laws now, they don't work. We didn't have money before. We have money now, it don't work. So we look really shiny to the rest of the country, but hello, let's look inside of what this is. And it ain't gonna look like this in Minnesota or Texas. That's what Jersey looked like. So what we did ain't gonna really work for you down there,
Right.
or wherever you are. So, but it's just building for me, it's building our communities together and cutting out that dumb stuff.
100%.
Yeah.
100%. Great, Emil Carter said, tell no lies, claim no easy victories. Right. And we've got to learn from our own mistakes and be mature enough and accountable to each other enough to own them, so we can learn from them, so we can repair in the work, make the shifts that we need to make, so we grow the work the way we need to make it grow. I did put the link back in the chat for the first is Tuesday. I had Monday in my head.
Tuesday at 6 p.m.
It's Tuesday at 6 o'clock. It's in virtual space, right? So folks can register and be a part of that. That hugely important conversation. We got a long way to get to where the UN wants us to. And that's a whole nother conversation. One of these days we need to have a conversation about the value of the international community and how that whole process is being disrespected by the super players and their junior partners on the military front right now, and how we have to fight for the integrity in that space, because that space represents the standards, the unity of standards, right, that we're fighting for, to bring humanity into the spaces where we're being treated like anything but humanity. So
exactly.
100%. Now,
So,
go ahead. I'm sorry.
Yeah, I just wanted to ask Cuqui another question, based around Cuqui. Did you see what had occurred in Newark yesterday? We had a number of young 13-year-olds who had issued a hoax online that they were going to be shootings in the schools. When you're talking about the dumb stuff, right? And as an attorney, I was looking at the charges that these kids are going to be charged with. The charges are very real, right? But we're talking about the dumb stuff, and we're talking about someone like yourself who are fighting, right, to get people out of those situations. And it looked like we've got young people fighting to get in those situations.
We absolutely do.
Right. And the question I need to ask is, how do we find a way to partner some of those people that you're helping talk to some of these kids doing this dumb stuff? Because we've got to find a way to bridge this gap, because I was just thinking about that, as someone who see these kids, talk to these kids, and and they don't have no money for attorneys, so they got to go through the public defender's office, and that is a revolving door, right?
Absolutely.
And they're just deals being made. And I'm saying, but there's some, because remember, you had a brother that came on, I forget the brother's name, but he had done a number of years, turned his life around, got this whole thing going. What's his name, Ty? Yeah. And I'm saying, there needs to be another kind of language. Talk to these 13-year-olds by somebody like him. Like, yo, man, like, this, because, some of these judges, no matter what we say as lawyers, some of these judges, they ain't got no respect. They just want these kids off the street.
Jersey, they age you up in a minute too.
Right. So
they age you up in a minute.
I guess.
And to your point, let me help you with that question and that answer. From a Newark vantage point, one of the spaces, and we love our brother Roger Leon too, but one of our spaces that we're trying to make more inroads in is the public school system, right? Talking about 13-year-old kids, those are kids, right? And there is a divide still. It's improving, but there is a divide still between other than what we call safe passage, and that's just some of the schools that some of our violence interrupters cover, right? Safe passage should be citywide, and there should be an organic relationship on the counseling front and the educational front with our credible messengers, right? In a sustained, ongoing way to help address that, right? So that's a space that we're struggling with the bureaucracy of the school system and trying to figure that out, right? It's happening in some places to some degree, but not to the extent that we like and that this town needs. And you take that and you expand that to other communities that are not as far as we have gotten insofar as community-based violence intervention. The problem is deeper. The ACLU has a program called Counselors Not Cops that tries to also address it, and with the over policing of the schools internally and not giving the kids the actual help that they need, to check, what we call in the dumb stuff, or what they're calling putting in work, right? So yeah, it's a front that still has some challenges.
All right, here I go. So Edward, I'm gonna tell you, I love you, and I love you for that question. And I guess that's supposed to be a challenging question, but here I go. That's what actually put me in this work in the first place. I have 6 grown children, and 5 of them are my sons.
Young man, that's right. Tell it.
Half of them been incarcerated. They all been in the dumb stuff. I will have to say some of them still in the dumb stuff. Okay, myself. All cards on the table. I don't keep nothing inside my sleeve. All right, you got that. I have 28 grandchildren right now because of my sons and my daughter. Oh, they look good. Okay, I'm gonna leave it at that. But I started this work in this advocacy as a welfare mom, and I had my 6 kids, 3 of yours, 4 of Zaid's, and we started a youth group with no money whatsoever in Exit 9, New Jersey.
That's right.
And that's how this started. And by the way, that's where the seed of this mass incarceration movement came from, because the Juvenile Justice Commission back then in the early 90s, as I was playing Human Relations Commission, can't we all just get along stuff, they sent me to this conference where Juvenile Justice Commission was dealing with disproportionality of juveniles in the system. Why is that? We all act stupid when we're teenagers, right? But why are all of us locked up, right? And that the way they looked at that from the Juvenile Justice Commissions is what is the model that created the first original summit. Mm-hmm. So you have that going on. Then you have, so that's the whole basis of this work. Stop our children at that door. But why are they like that? What we see our kids doing right now, we don't talk to our kids.
That's right.
You want to keep it away from court right now. We don't talk to our kids. Some of us is scared of our kids. Some of us ain't wrapped too tight neither, because we went through it, and we had kids before we knew how to be. That didn't come with no manual. Yeah. Right. So you leave me out here, and then you get mad at me because I don't know what I'm doing. I'm lost. Yeah. Where was you when you was 13? I know where I was. I was all kinds of messed up. Right. And very few of us survived this. Right. And when you talk to a brother like Chino, you see the essence of survival. I'm the secretary of the board to the Returning Citizen Support Group, by the way. Right. We're doing a cookout this October 5th. What's that? Next Saturday, Zaid?
Next Saturday, yes, ma'am.
It's a cookout at 32 Prince Street with DJ Lady C, La Comay Buena, Edward Riley, for Get Out the Vote. Because we passed a law for 83,000 people on probation and parole to vote, but we didn't tell them what that is. That's how Do you know how to go to the poll? What's that? Who's this guy? Who's that? Do you know any of that? You've been locked for 30 years and okay, I can vote. I don't know. I got other stuff. I need a place to stay. I need a job. I need to reconnect with what's left of my family if there is one. Right? And all of that's connected because we marinate in this chaos and we think it's normal. Right? So for me, as Zaid will tell him what I say at the rally. I am because we are because
I am. That's right.
I got a part to play. Yeah. And until we all really bring that whole village together, we stay stuck. Yeah. Yeah. That's the way I do it. So, and then the last thing I'll give you on that, when I started working with the guys inside, they introduced me to a video that I've already had in Barringer twice. I had it in over 83 schools, in high schools and middle schools, and your grandmama basement, because I went to all of these rinky-dink grassroots agencies to whoever would have me. It's called SCAR, Support Kids at Risk. And it's those guys, some of those guys that you see out here now, that did a video and said, I'm sitting in here and I got 95 years. You don't want to be here. And so we would bring that to schools here in Newark, and more than just Barringer twice. There was a couple of schools, I don't remember them. I could show you the list. I'll be happy to show it to you. I ain't charge you nothing. It's not about that. Just put me in front of them kids. Put the bad ones up front. You want to watch that video of what prison really is versus all that shiny crap you hearing from people coming out with their stupid badge of honor.
Yep.
And then after I'm done with that video, then I'm going to have Edward Riley, who just came home 20 years ago. Or I'm going to have Zaid Muhammad, who's maybe 25 and still looking good and still looking like them, talk to them because he just got home.
Yeah.
So I'm in this.
Yeah.
I'm in this, but only can do so much. But I'm doing my part. So I would challenge anybody listening to this right here to do theirs. We are because I am. I have a part to play. What you doing?
Now, Cuqui, how come you haven't been able to get further than Barringer, though? I mean, you know.
Oh, no. I've been in 83 schools over 3 years, bro.
Oh, in Newark.
No, across the state of New Jersey, buddy, from Violent all the way up to Passaic. Don't mess with me.
Okay.
I'll send it to you. I have a whole package ready to go, by the way.
Okay.
And I can still do it out there.
Because we still
somebody call me up.
Because we still, I'm telling you, I when I saw that, I'm like, why are we still having 13-year-olds? There's a scripture in the Bible that says that what man building a house don't sit down and count the cost first, right? And I'm saying, these, like you said, these kids are always on their social media. These kids are very bright. They can Google anything and anyone. Are you telling me that somebody didn't say before you put that thread out there, Google what the cost of that is going to be if you get caught, right? And I'm saying that because when I talk to 13, I got young people in my family, and when you talk to these kids, their brains are popping so fast till it's incredible. And I'm saying to myself, because my nieces and nephew will look up anything in a moment and challenge you on that. And when I read that in the paper and I saw some of the principals coming outside and looking around their buildings and so forth, and everybody started saying it was a hoax. And then I heard the chief of police say that they arrested the kids. And my lawyer mind went to work, and I'm like, oh my God, now what's going to happen to these young kids? And I know they're probably poor kids. They're coming from Newark. Their family ain't got no money for a lawyer. And I'm saying, now we got them in the system.
Right.
Now we've got to figure out how do we, and thank God we got a black mayor, right? Who got a black police chief that says, hey, you know what? We've got to figure out a way. How do we save these kids and they don't get lost in the system?
Let's go back to what you may have forgot you said in the beginning. How many of these families got a man in their house? Let's start there.
Yeah, that's right.
How many of these families got a father that's an actual father in that house? Let's start there. Let's go to the next part. Kids, what you just said, they're too damn smart. Yeah. But we can't keep up with them. They come home and ask us for help with their math, and we don't know trigonometry or whatever else that is. Right. You couldn't help them. They go to school, and what kind of history? Chris got lost, man. What part of history are they learning about themselves?
Right. 100%.
See? So you have them, they're running 50 miles a minute. Think about it. And we're not doing nothing with them except sit down there. I got 3 jobs. I'm tired when I actually make it home. And they're either asleep or they're still here. because they're bored out of their skulls. It's like its own isolated confinement. And we leave them that way. So you have the whole criminal justice system that just can't wait to pick them up. You have the education school system that say it's the parents' fault. You had the parents that didn't get parented themselves. You go back and back and back. And what do you see all over the place? So for me, I'm sorry, I'm staying in Africa with it. It's each one, teach one, because I can't do it all. And I look for the Edward Rileys and the Zaid Muhammads that will teach one with me, because that's the only way we can do it. But when I teach you, now I oblige you.
That's right.
Carry
You
that
take some
forward.
responsibility. That's right.
Don't waste my time with it if you're not going to do the work yourself.
That's right.
I'm going to give you the door, and don't act like you didn't hear it. Not with me. And that's why I say those things in the rally. I don't sit there with dates and stats and all the data and all that stuff, because somebody else does that. I'm reminding you that you have a part to play, that you kind of sit back and how many of them go home and, oh, that was a nice event. Oh, we took some pictures with our friends. Oh, wow, I got this sign that I can hang up in my yard. What are you doing after that? And I got to just keep bringing it there, because I'm kind of getting, I'm only 35 and all, and I'm getting a little tired. Yes, I ain't 40 already. You know what I mean?
That's about, I could only go back to 35. I can't remember nothing before that.
But that torch. But see, for me, this whole full circle blessing and this magic of this movement is that the men that I never thought I would see walk the streets are actually not only out here, but doing the damn thing. I was presented, and I don't even know if I'm supposed to say this on the air, but it just meant so much to me. I do this ancestral meditation. It's African, Ubuntu ancestral circle meditation. And I've actually been blessed to be able to do it in those 3 facilities that I told you, juvenile justice. Mm-hmm. So those kids got to carry that forward, Rawway and Edna. And I've done an ancestral circle in both of them, and I'm doing one in Edna now this month. But I bring you back through your ancestry through this meditation.
That's right.
And Chino has been part of this meditation several times, because he's been joining me in these facilities as one of the volunteers. So what happens? Mayor Baraka is trying to work on giving them funding to build housing in Newark, maybe a whole block, to build houses for returning citizens.
We need it.
And talk about the answer. I mean, come on. But guess what they're naming that complex, Zaid?
What? No, I haven't heard that. What?
I know we're on the radio, so I hope when people forget this, but they literally presented it to me as Ubuntu Village.
Wow.
I know. Yeah. I was blown away. And if this really happens,
you got Coweta Towers coming to downtown too.
Oh my God. Oh my God. That's magic. Do you see? Now that's full circle, Edward. That's what you're talking about. We can't save the whole world, but you take a couple of them and you truly pour your love, your wisdom, and your teachings into them, and you get something like that. Magic.
100%. Yeah.
Wow. Yeah. Just wow. I really pray that this is successful, man.
Well, I got to say, I definitely appreciate Chino. I mean, I ran into him at a men's meeting, and and he was pretty powerful in that meeting,
Every meeting, bro.
Just to see this brother, and really to see him in the hood. You know what I mean? The way he's walking through the hood right now. I think that's real impressive, because a lot of cats talk about doing the work, right? But they don't come back and do the walk through the hood, right? And where I saw him at, Zaid, he was in the West Ward, right? Yeah. And deep in the hood, man. Yeah. And it was real tall. And that is the thing, Cookie, that I talk about, because I don't think we can have this pretty language with some of these kids, right?
Not possible. No.
That's right.
And that's what I appreciated about Chino when I was in that meeting with him. It wasn't pretty, because the people he was talking to didn't need to hear pretty, right?
That's right.
And he needed to tell them what that nightmare was really like, right?
Yeah.
And I think that all of the business people that were in that meeting with me and lawyers and heard Chino, we were impressed because we would never talk to them kids like that. And then the question is, a lot of them kids wouldn't even listen to us.
Right.
Because they're quicker than you.
Right.
Yeah,
They're quicker. They're ready to fight you.
yeah,
Mentally and physically, because they don't care anymore, ready to die, right?
yeah.
That's number one. Number two, Chino actually
and
works at the Youth Advocate Program. He
Yeah.
works with kids in Essex County anyway on another job. And
Yeah.
that means that you going to the cookout, right, Ed?
Oh, I'm gonna make it. I'm putting it on my calendar.
You heard
Put it-
that, Zay? Everybody
Yes,
on the
yeah,
radio
got
heard that one.
I'm putting it on my calendar. Yeah, I want to be there. I
October
definitely-
5th, 12 to 6, sir.
Yeah, I definitely want to be there. I'm, listen, for me, I appreciate anybody willing, particularly at our age, right? Because working with these kids is not easy, right? But I think that the cats who have the language to get to them, that's why when we had Roger Leone on and he was talking about bringing Zaid into the school, for me, Zai, that's what I'm saying. That needs to happen. You can't say it and don't do it, right? And then we see this happen with 13-year-olds, but you still got people like a Chino and a Zaid, and these cats still around. Let's get this happening, man. You know what I mean? Because we're not getting any younger, but these kids, as you said, these kids are. Listen, I have a challenge talking to my nieces and nephews sometime, right? And I've got 3 degrees.
We lost you. Yeah, we lost you.
Trying to talk to them sometime, I'm like, listen, you guys have not accomplished what I've accomplished, but let me tell you something. Y'all are damn smart, and I give you credit for that. But you don't have the life experience. Right? You're smart, but you don't have the life experience.
You don't have the drive.
That's the work you got to put in. That's right.
You don't have the drive because nobody's giving you the car.
That's right. Or the keys, or the driving lessons.
Or the driving lessons.
Most of us learn how to drive from stealing the damn cars.
What?
And that's trying to make a comeback, right?
Yeah.
Oh, and by the way, hip hop radio station. I mean, let's look at that. Look at hip hop today. Why you think let me close my closing now? I'm still Nas, Pac, AZ, KRS. I'm still there with the originals. Why though?
So you beat us to the question. So right here.
I know because I know it's getting late, all of that. But why do I stay there? And if we're talking about our babies, where are they with it? What has hip hop become? And I'm still a DJ and I still love it, but I can't play some of that stuff in the church parking lot now, can I?
Sure, for sure.
Right? I mean, let's think about, or in the school, right? But what do they hear?
Yeah, that's right. It hits differently for them. That's what but Zaid, that's what I think LeVar was speaking to just now. Why he said he can't listen to some of the hip hop because of what it does to him, right? It doesn't put him in a positive space.
That's what he said.
Right. And so he can't listen to it. And that's the difference, I think, for us, Cuqui, because when we were coming through, the hip hop we listened to put us in a much different space, right?
When you're with your lady, you listen to hip hop, you listen to Teddy, you listen to Roger, you listen to Blackstreet. Why? Right. Because it puts you in a mood, mental health. You put it all around, right? Yeah. So but think about and they're 24/7 with it.
Yeah, that's right.
Their profits.
Yeah, and I don't know if you heard this, Cuqui. Did you hear Method Man when he said he went to do the Hot 97 concert out at the Meadowlands and he got booed? Did you hear him say that?
No, that's a shame, man.
Yeah, he said they booed him, Zaid. And he said that what he realized after he got off of the stage, he said that they booed him and Redman. And he said, but these are the same kids could Google Wu-Tang Clan and see me in it, right? And then when I come out and I'm with one of my partners and we get booed, what he said is that, and I thought it was profound, Cookie. He said what he realized, and he said he's never gonna do that concert again. He said they can invite me, pay me all the money. He said that was so humiliating for me. But he said what I realized is, he said that's not my audience.
Right.
It's not my audience.
So it's a complete disconnect.
Yeah.
Goes back to your original question. What's up with these kids?
Yeah.
It's a complete disconnect.
Yeah.
That generation with us, and we will not deal with it.
Yeah.
We want them. We're my way or the highway, ain't we? Yeah. I'm the man. I'm the father. I'm what? I'm the cop. I'm the teacher. So that's what you're getting back, and you leave it at that, and you let him go back on his little telephone.
That's right.
Mm-hmm.
Complete disconnect. And we have to, as a people, as humanity, we have to get there.
Yeah. And that was sort of, and I think I said this to Rhino, that was the same thing happened. I think we talked about this last time with Rhino, and we had Principal Capele click in. You know, that happened with LL Cool J. You know, where some kids was dissing him for having that microphone on his arm. You know, like, who does he think he is? You know, to put a mic on his arm.
Look him up.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. Google him.
Yeah. And they had the nerve to call him whack. He said. And they called me whack.
Complete
but you got here. How do you think you guys got to where you? Because he was saying I never made. Because El was saying this. He said I never made the money they made. He said, but how do you think you got to make that money? How do you think you got there? Who do you think opened those doors?
1,000 Shades of Gray.
Right. And so yeah, you're right. We have this disconnect on so many different levels. And I think that we've got to find a way, to find, I know when the mayor comes on, he often says, when we ask him that question, he say he's old school. You know what I mean? He said, I love old school hip hop. Right.
Good. Me too.
Yeah. You know what I mean? And that, and I guess if I had to be honest, that's true, but I don't try to shut the young people out. I'm willing to listen. Right. I'm willing to hear what they got to say. But I really don't like the stuff that get these, like LeVar was saying, I don't want to hear music that get these kids, because LeVar was saying it gives them a negative spirit, right?
Right.
And that's important.
That mess out. That's right.
So hold on now. We like Wu-Tang. There's a little Wu-Tang mess over there. We like MOP, First Family. That's part of our generation. Annie up, let's go. Right? So let's think about it. We had it too.
But that's why I said, Cookie, I'm not going to knock them, right? I mean, right. I'm going to respect the art, right?
Right.
I'm going to respect that. But I also understand at the end of the day, right, you've got to have a balance, right?
Absolutely.
Have a balance.
But some of us, and I'm just being honest because I'm on both sides, some of us didn't catch that balance either.
Yeah.
That's why we in this mess too. But because of so many of us that couldn't get that balance to it, that's the beginning of our disconnect with our younger generation, because you just say you want to listen to them, but watch this. Don't you think they want to hear you? But are you saying something that they can learn from? They want to hear you. They don't want to talk. They want guidance. Oh my God, that sounds like Martin Lawrence. Guidance, right?
But it goes back to what you said earlier, though, Cookie, too. A lot of us are afraid of them kids.
Absolutely correct. And disconnect all over the place. And that's what we, as the teachers, as the parents, as the we have to get with us. Yeah. Because we keep pointing our fingers at them, and they're kind of sick of that.
Yeah.
That's right.
Yeah. But that is why I say that, why somebody like Chino is important, because he doesn't come in the room with that fear, right? I think he comes in the room and he have that lived experience. And what I saw with the people in the audience, the young people that he was talking to, I saw him reach them cats, right?
Absolutely.
And because he talked to them, he also spoke the language, right? Which is what I say about Mayor Baraka. You know, that you got to be able to talk the talk, right?
Yeah.
You know, and if you can't talk because these kids, they hearing differently. You know, they using different language. They say, "Oh, it hits differently." Or when he says it, yeah, it hits. You know, it hits me differently. You know, you sounds like a guy who read a book. You know, like okay, you know.
You
But
know how many people come up to me and tell me, why do you work with this? Why do you go into prisons? I'd be afraid to go in those prisons. How many of our own people?
yeah,
Right?
Right.
It's called being human. Meeting people where they at. And by the way, credible messengers, we have them all over here. What are they doing? They're fighting to stay alive. Because you already saw in Trenton, you saw it in Patterson, you saw Jersey City fight for their funding because they turned them down the first time. But in Patterson and Trenton, what did you see? Oh, Ed did it for 2 years. Okay, we know how to do it now. The Zaid over there, he's going to do it with the police department now. He don't need them anymore. Give us the money. You saw that? Happened twice already. And this is brand new pilot programs.
right.
Right? So that credible messengers are more important than credible messengers are more important than cops in our communities.
Yeah, that's
Let
true.
me just get real with it.
That's absolutely true. That's
Especially with the younger generation.
and that is why that's why the man took 5% of the police budget and created the Office of Violence Prevention and Trauma, because we needed credible messages.
5%. Listen to the number.
Yeah,
If that's the most important thing to curb violence in our communities, 5% should do it. And then you got to choke to death and try to keep it. Maybe get 6% or 3% and do it.
yeah.
No. Let's get real with that.
100%. 100%.
Yeah.
All right. Okay. Well, it's been a blast. It's been a blast, compañera. Yeah. Looking forward to the 1st, the 5th, and the January for sure. All right.
Yes, sir.
Sure.
And you better get in because we are going to cap it at 350 because we're having a real talk, and I need my warriors there because you're speaking. Not 5 minutes long, 1 minute and go. Remember, we already got recommendations from those 3 facilities. Mercer and Middlesex County jails are talking to me right now. That element has not been in this movement for a lot of reasons, which we won't get into tonight. But we need to build the map for reform. Ours together.
Build it and build it ourselves. That's right.
The whole village, all of us. And that includes them too.
That's right.
All of us. Or it ain't going to happen.
That's right. From the bottom. It's got to happen from the bottom up.
Yes, absolutely. Yes.
We ain't got no problem being at the bottom. That's for sure.
Hey, Cuqui, before you go, can I ask you just your opinion on something? And I'm curious to get your opinion because as we look at the political climate that's going on, and you take a look at Eric Adams and what just happened in New York, right? What's your opinion on that?
I think it still has to unfold. I can't really have an opinion until it does. You might want to say they're set up here, but then we start to sound like we start to sound red a little bit, right? But it's too early to call. Same thing like with Menendez. It was, what the Latino Action, and I'll use that as a parable because that's already over, right? Because Eric is still unfolding and the layers, the onions are still being peeled back. But the Latino Action Network took a position on the Menendez stuff, which was when he was in office, in the decades that he was in office, when we had an issue, he responded. Good, bad, or ugly, he showed up. and we will always respect that. With relation to the rest of that stuff, we stay out of it. That's on him. That's kind of what we said as a advocacy body. And we're not trying to smash our own people either. That's not really productive or helpful, right? It's like saying the Cookie went and got in some stuff. So I ain't gonna say, yo, Cook, you know, there's so much I'm gonna be by your side, but there's some things I just can't condone because that's part of it, right? I said, look, if I'm doing something wrong and you're my child, or I'm sorry, if you're doing something wrong and you're my child, and I know it's wrong, but I have to defend you as my child, I got to think about that for a moment because I'm teaching him to do that again. Or do I need him to sit in those consequences and learn from it? I could tell you a story, but I got 5 sons, man. I can tell you stories and a daughter. She learned a very serious lesson when she was 13, right? But it's because if you're wrong, you're wrong when we get home, right? But I have to teach you that. I'm not just blindly supporting every stupid move you make either, right? There is some rules to this game, and they were never taught that either, these guys. We had rules to this game, and we lost them too. So how could they have them? Well, most of us lost them. There's not a lot of us left here.
Yeah, that's for sure.
How many of us did start out? We started out with though, right?
Sure. We were talking about street earlier.
Talk about Mob Deep, right? Survival of the fittest, right? That's not pretty. So that's how I would answer that, Ed, just because politically we got to be careful because, you know, even at the Latino Action Network, like, I don't care if your name is Smith or Wojcinski or whatever, and it's not Martinez, if you're fighting for my people, right? And if you're wrong, you're wrong, but we want to support Latino and people of color in these offices, but I'm not blindly supporting you neither. What'd you do, Zaid? You got a record, you got a report card. Where was you on certain things, right? And then I gotta size it up. If you were good in this, if you were good in 3 things out of 4, I gotta say, hey, I gotta work on that 4th one with him, right? But I gotta know who he is. Yeah. Or my vote is blind. That's when you end up with red and blue.
Yeah, that's right.
You don't know, and you got too much going on to do the homework because of all the suffering and all the chaos that we're forced into with all of these designs of power that we did not create, that we spend our lives here now fighting to break those chains. That's, I guess, how I would answer that. Did I answer that, Ed?
Yeah, I mean, I appreciate your opinion on that, and you know, I mean, you're right. It is, and I think that what I'm speaking to, and I think what you just said is important. It's this political climate we in, and we have to be careful, right?
That's the watchword. That's the mic dropper.
Yeah,
because they're watching all of us like a hawk, and they'd love to lock all of us up straight up.
They would, in a heartbeat. They would.
And now that, you know, we're going into funding spaces when we've been doing all this stuff out, we got to cross our what do you got? Cross the T's and dot our I's to the fullest, or they will.
You know, I'll tell you a little story. Back in the early 90s, I was doing racist stuff, and the KKK was having their parties, right? And I said something publicly as a co-chair of Human Relations Commission back then. I was living in New Brunswick. You know, I had a brochure hand delivered to my personal house door with the Pope and Hitler shaking hands to let me know they knew where I lived.
Wow. Wow. Wow.
We go through it.
Wow.
That's right.
Wow.
That's right.
We go through it. True story, bro.
That's right. Yeah. That ain't 1954 either. That's a few years ago.
And it ain't. I was 90 something.
Wow.
Yeah. So,
hey,
yeah.
We appreciate you. We thank you for coming on and really giving us this extra time and really giving the audience an opportunity to get to know you better.
Oh my God.
We appreciate that. You know, I feel like I know you a little bit deeper now.
I hope that's a good thing.
Oh no, hey, listen, it's I appreciate you and thank you, especially with all them grandchildren you got. My
Oh,
God.
baby, don't mess with me.
She got 2 platoons.
Yes, sir.
Yeah,
That's just to start with. I got more where they came from.
that's right. I know that's right.
Well, we appreciate you, Cookie. Anytime you want to come on, you don't need an invitation. All you got to do is let Zaid know, and
Yeah, that's right.
some
I love
sort of-
y'all.
Yeah,
I love
you.
y'all to the fullest. And when this stuff is going to start getting public now, a little bit more about the event.
Yeah.
So we're going to come on once because they're doing videos now. All the partners are doing videos.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Oh wow!
Excellent, yes, Cookie.
Oh,
Excellent.
thank you.
Yeah.
I'll be back with the working summit with real
A lot of people sleep on Gramps. I see that.
Yeah. See, I told you it wasn't just me who appreciated you tonight. It was a whole bunch of folks.
She got groupies too.
Extra stuff. You know what I mean?
Yeah, Zaid. I love your family.
Hey, you hang out here enough. We'll pull a lot of stuff out of you that you got in
you. Stop it.
Don't let us get back in the studio. We can put you on some 1-2s.
We can go to the cookout for that, bro. I'm busy,
right
man.
That's
I
right.
got stuff going on.
Yeah. I'm the one always bringing the fish. So yeah, definitely looking forward to that.
But I ain't getting none.
Yeah.
They have me up top there like Rapunzel. I'm going to be on the floor this time. I don't like it up there. I can't be with nobody. I'll see y'all next Saturday. Yes.
All right. Thank you.
100%.
I appreciate you. All
love
right.
y'all.
God bless.
I love you back.
Right. Good night.
Yeah,
Zaid, one hell of a show, my brother.
Yeah, always.
So
always.
Definitely want to thank the disciples for coming on. We appreciate them, for coming through and putting it down. And I want to say, man, I definitely appreciated LeVar's honesty tonight.
Yes, yes.
And that
Very
young
good
brother
to have him in the space. Yes.
Yeah, man. And the same way he said he appreciated us, I want to say publicly, I appreciate his growth. Right.
That's right. And we all had our hands on him when he was a baby and we helped him grow up. Mama had him with him everywhere, just like she should have.
Yeah.
Right? And it panned out the way it should have.
Yep. And so the same way he say, Zaid, that he appreciated us, I just want him to know we appreciate him. Right?
That's right.
And it's not easy for a young man to say, he had to step away, and try and collect himself. And thank God he did, and he didn't get into nothing. So want to thank the disciples, want to thank them, and want to say to Balena Ali, wherever she is, and what she was doing with her women's group. We missed her tonight on a disciple. We know you were with
us. They got a new pastor too, by the way.
I saw that. Yeah.
Yeah, new pastor.
We'll
probably have to get him on too.
Yeah, we're gonna have to find a way to get him on and talk to him. Besides, you want to thank the other folks for coming through?
Dr. Susan Esquillin, good to have her on.
She was excellent.
Looking forward to that conference. Yeah, she was. We got to have her back. Because she's been out here longer than we have.
Yep.
And it's really good. And she's really been the one driving the conversation for the creation of that space.
Yeah,
right? I just learned that today too. So that's that multiracial coalition piece. It's important. It has its place, and I'm glad she's on the right side of the question. And then, of course, Cookie coming behind her was powerful. One just blended right into the other.
It did. It was excellent, and I appreciated Cookie, one, giving us the extra time, and two, willing to share more of her story. Appreciated that. Some folks aren't willing to go that deep, man, and appreciated that she was willing to do that tonight. And
she's a hood mama. To the fullest, and that's what's got her going. That's what gets a lot of the women going for the most part. Trying to be worried about their damn kids. And the hood that they're trying to raise their kids, and that's what gets them going. Yeah, and that's natural, and that should be like that.
Yeah. So we definitely want to make sure she know that we love her back. Right. This ain't a one-way street here, Cookie. This is a two-way street. We love you. We appreciate
100%.
you.
That's
so,
right.
You got any final things you want to say, Zaid?
I mean, we lifted up a lot coming up. She sent us the flyer by text. We got to put you got to put that on the page. I can't get access to the page on this particular link that I'm on.
Send it to me and I'll put it on there.
Yeah, it's on the 3rd. It's Thursday, at 9 a.m. at the Robert Tree. Just like she said, yeah, it's a good fly. It's got to be this brother, Reverend Dr. Frederick Haynes III, who's going to be the keynote speaker along with the mayor. So that's that looks like it's going to be powerful.
And that's on Thursday, right?
Yeah, Thursday morning.
Yep. Okay. Yeah, send that to me. I'll put it up on the page. And then the cookout, right, is going to be on the
Yeah,
Saturday.
I got to find the flyer for that. Yeah, I got to find the flyer for that because they got that out too.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
we want to make sure that we lift both of those up, and I definitely want to put some of those things on my calendar.
100%. I'm
So,
gonna shout out the child because she's actually hosting her own birthday party.
That's crazy.
I gotta go run over there and put in the parents. Now I'm like, girl, I helped you. Pay for the party, but I don't need to be hanging out with your crew. I'm your goddamn goddamn kid.
Yeah. My bed's calling me. Yeah,
I know that's right.
I get up. You get to this age, Zaid, you get up early. I don't know why we do that, but I'm early
That's
too.
our training.
Yeah,
That's our training.
yeah,
From boxing to slam, that gets us up in the morning.
yeah. Doing that, and I still do it. I was telling my doctor that today, man. He's like, yo, man. He's like, yeah. He said that's why you got good blood pressure, man, because you're still doing that road work. Yeah, I do. I'm trying
I'm trying to track down my chiropractor so I can get my legs back.
Yeah, man. Hey, Zaid, I tell you, man, in closing, my old trainer used to say, keep a 2-piece. He said, you might not have a 3-piece, but he said, you need to keep a 2-piece. I tried my best to keep the 2-piece, brother.
100%.
Yep. Well, listen, we want to thank everybody for coming through. Of course, we thank all of y'all for showing up every Friday right here on All Politics Are Local. We'll be here right back here next Friday from 6 to 9. And one thing you can be assured of is that if it's happening in the community, it's also happening here.
That's
so
right.
we thank you. And Zaid, you gonna end the show tonight? You think you got that? You got your?
I went to the regular link. I didn't go to the little command link because he didn't send me the code.
Okay. All right. Well, listen, we thank y'all for coming in tonight and coming through and spending some time with us. As my brother Zaid said, we'll catch him where, Zaid? What'd you say, Zaid?
We'll catch you in the whirlwind.
Catch you in the whirlwind.
Yeah, and you don't stop.